EAGLES, Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. A little fired up pre-show, Johnny Mac and I were, as we come to you live on a Wednesday morning. Hope everybody's having a great day and a great week so far. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, my friend?
Yeah, getting ready for Gossip Girl season 6. Good Lord. Good Lord. What are we doing here? You almost think about, I compare it in the political spectrum, like when I was younger, and I'd be like, these two idiot sides argue back and forth, and then you think, well, at least the election's over and things will calm down. No, it only gets worse. That's I've never learned. I'm like, well, at least AJ's out of town. It'll slowly boil down. It only got worse. It only got worse. I should learn from my mistakes.
With a bunch of baloney. John, can you real quick? I know you hate talking about this crap, and I don't blame you for it. But can you dispel quickly what you just mentioned about the Hassan Reddick drama?
Oh my God!
And why he was sent out of here? I mean, you had all the facts. You just gave them to me before the show started. Go ahead and give it to the people, because that's the other narrative.
The guy was coming off a spectacular season. I think he was 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And I remember talking to Jody at the time. I go, this is the time to strike if you're Hassan Reddick, and, get as much money as you can possibly, because coming off of that, he was obviously underpaid, similar to what happened to Jonathan Grenard, but even to a higher level, tremendously underpaid. So he's very unhappy with his contract. And ultimately, that's the Eagles, correctly so in hindsight, were saying, well, that was the 70 sack season. They had a tremendous defensive line, tremendous pass rush as a whole. And he was just the guy that was, piling up the statistics, but they didn't think that he was one of, the top tier pass rushers. So you got to hold the line, and they held the line and said, well, you got a nice contract. Didn't want to play under it. They eventually moved him to the Jets, who picked up the same contract. And by the way, Hassan Reddick held out from the Jets the entire time because it was the fucking contract, which was reported every step of the way. So this nonsense, something had to come up that they traded Hassan Reddick. Yeah, it was reported extensively at the time. He had an issue with his contract. It's not new in the NFL. And they treat this weird rando, and I'm not saying everybody, but this weird rando account that's just making shit up out of the thin air. Like, and Jeremy Fowler's got 13 different sources and spending months on a story, and everything, checks out from back to forth. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. What do you guys want? Do you want bullshit? Or do you want honesty? The people that listen to the show every year, AJ's on with Mariah Taylor. Yeah, we haven't been as close in 2 years. If you listen to this fucking show, you knew that. Oh, they're lying. McMullen's lying. McLean's lying. Berman's lying. No, we're not. He's not going to get traded. Now he is traded. Now he's a pariah. And don't get me wrong, AJ did some passive-aggressive bullshit on his way out the door. And he does that. And I've been very honest, and his stuff on social media didn't help at times, which we've talked about extensively over the years.
Yeah.
He knows it. Can't seem to help himself. But I mean, I don't feel like doing a gossip show do you?
We're not. We're not doing a gossip. But I wanted to get J Max fire that you were giving me pre-show. I knew needed to come to the program this morning, so I'm happy we got that.
Reddick. Out of left field. Why would they trade Hassan Reddick? That just means you weren't paying attention for 10 seconds.
Is there any other horrible narratives out there, John, that need to be debunked by the great John McMullen?
Well, I don't think, because I think the Jalen AJ stuff has been pretty much rock solid the entire way. Again, but you have to listen. For 2 years. And it's been a long time coming. And by the way, I think you saw some of the things, and AJ thinks the grass is going to be greener. I don't think it is, to be perfectly honest.
How many yards do you think AJ's getting in New England?
What's that?
How many yards do you think he's? I know you're not a yards guy,
but yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, they still have a very young quarterback who's going to continue to have some growing pains. Not that he can't further develop but there's going to be some growing pains along the way. And the bottom line is, again, this is the greatest stretch in Eagles franchise history, at least modern history. They've won, I don't know, over 70%, slightly over 70% of their games. They're not going to win at that level. The Eagles aren't going to win at that level over the next 4 years. The Patriots aren't going to win on that level. There might be one or two teams in the NFL that win at that level over the next 2 years, or over the next 4 years, one or two, maybe a couple more over the next 2 years. And maybe the Patriots are that, but I don't think so. I'm an odds guy. I don't think the Patriots are going to be as successful. So I think ultimately he's going to be unhappy in a different way. Maybe the yards are up. Maybe the personal stats are up, but he's not a guy that's going to enjoy being 9-8. I can tell you that. So, from his standpoint, I would say be careful what you wish for. But, when you're in the moment and in a certain relationship, and it's, look, their passing game sucked for 2 years. He was right about that. He was right about that to the point the team changed, although I don't know how much they changed after watching practice yesterday. Hilarious moments. It's a bunch of fucking dump off. It's the same shit, except they're under center.
Oh gosh! Don't tell me that, John. That's what I really want to get into. We only have like 5 more minutes until Mike Gill gets here. Can we get the update on the OTA, John? Let's put the gossip hour behind us for a second. Makai Lemon not practicing. You're saying,
and that's another thing. When maybe it was just highlighted by the fact that AJ's finally actually out of the building. But, I'm looking at, and Makai's got a hamstring and he's not practicing. And you're looking at they're rolling out the first team receivers, and it's DeVonta, obviously, which is fine, and Dontavian Wicks, which you can live with. But then Hollywood Brown's getting first team reps, and even Elijah Moore's getting some first team reps. And you're like, oh my God, what was it?
Yeah,
right. What?
And this is not the team that we were watching the last 4 years.
Now again, hopefully Makai, he's probably not going to practice the rest of the spring, I would think. Which is only, they have one OTA tomorrow, which was closed, and then minicamp next week. So he's not going to play and should be ready for training camp. So ultimately it doesn't matter that much, and he didn't play well in his first OTA practice where he was healthy. He had a drop and wrong route ran. So there's going to be some growing pains there, but yeah, really one domino, one player not on the field, and he's a rookie, by the way. So already probably over-expected what he's going to do to begin with, and it looked very pedestrian.
Which is okay, right? I mean, it's OTAs.
Yeah, it's fine. That's like, Markel Bell's at right tackle because Lane's not there. Okay, he's going to be there, so who cares ultimately?
Yeah, right.
But didn't look good in the moment is all I'm saying.
And does that further your thought process, or further your thought that this thing is not going to be what we're expecting it to be from an offensive schematic standpoint?
Well, what it was kind of it's the same old shit is basically what was told to me by someone. And it's like I don't necessarily agree with that, but I it looked a lot. It looked like a bunch of the same stuff with new branding, like a new packaging. Like when a product on the shelf, it's the exact same product, but you just put a
Right.
nice new logo on it or an updated logo or some things like that. Like bunch of dump offs, which is fine. They should dump it off, but they always do that. You hear me every spring, and so that's what they do. You say, and one of the probably the most positive thing, and again, you're talking about 2 practices we get to see of 6, so 33%. We don't get to see all the other stuff, but if there's one guy I say, has looked good at Saquon, which I think is positive. A lot of that's in the passing game because he struggled, and maybe he's more invested. Caught a big wheel route for a touchdown. Yesterday was probably the biggest offensive play of the day. The first play, 7-on-7. If Todd Monken was there, he'd be incensed. The new Cleveland.
Oh gosh.
I don't know who Jalen was throwing to. Well, he was throwing to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He just threw it right to him. I couldn't even tell you who the target was. And it got better from there. It's not the end of the world, but 7-on-7s are, as Todd Monken said out in Cleveland, you should never throw an interception in 7-on-7s, which is unrealistic, but you shouldn't throw a lot. Yeah, it wasn't great. Defense looks good. Tariq Woolen looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I read that. Tariq Woolen had a big day, huh?
Oh, man. He was right in the hip of Hollywood Brown on a go route, which, again, it's been a big thing for the Eagles over the years because AJ's really good at it. And he was just in his hip pocket. They were doing red zone stuff and really late. They held on to the ball. So it was that, it's like, watching drills in a real game, the pass rush would have gotten home, but they let it go a little bit further and, stuff starts breaking down. And I think it was Tank Bigsby gets loose and Woolen just closed that up immediately. So he's looked really good. So I would say a lot of positives on defense, average at best on the offense.
Sounds like what the Eagles have been the last couple of years, or at least was last year. We'll see how that goes forward. Johnny Mac, what's your concern level on the Makai Lemon hamstring injury early and those soft tissues? You know how they can pop up at any time. We've had players that, have that's lingered for them for a lot. Obviously, it's not something that, it's pretty common thing that comes up. But what's your thought process on that for Makai Lemon here, fresh after the A.J. Brown trade? The guy they drafted in round 1 is out with a hamstring.
Yeah, I mean, never good, obviously, but best time for it. Obviously, as I said, he's not going to practice the rest of the spring. Why would you? Why would you push it? So should be ready for the start of training camp. But anytime you have thoroughbred players, as I like to call them, so speed players, wide receivers, corners, you never want them dealing with hamstrings, and they tend to be things that can linger and flare up. AJ's had some problems with it over the past couple seasons. Popped up a couple times. So you hope it's not something that's, part of his history and he's susceptible to them, but it's going to happen. This is the time you want it to happen. And all indications, he was out there, so it's not too serious. And he was out there taking mental reps and looking at the play sheet, and he was real close with Aaron Moorhead. So they're trying to get him mental reps. But, if the spring is important, it's more important for younger players than veteran players. So and if this is a guy you want to be ready for week 1, obviously missing reps is not great, but could be worse. If he did it at the start of training camp, then, you're going to miss multiple weeks probably, and where it would be even more important. So you don't want it to happen, but if it is going to happen, this is probably the best time for it to happen.
Fair enough, Johnny Mac. Good stuff. What else, John? Yesterday you spoke with a couple players down there. I heard from DeVonta, some other people. I heard Jordan Mailata had some good comments. What were some of your takeaways from what the players had to say with who spoke yesterday?
Yeah, I think Jordan is the one that will probably resonate the most because he spoke very nicely about Sean Mannion and Chris Cooper and Uar Bernard. Called basically Sean Mannion the smartest guy in the building, and Uar's a physical freak, and Chris, but that's Jordan. I mean, he's one of the best leaders on the team, and he's always going to prop everybody up. But I think that'll resonate the most for fans. Quinyon and Cooper spoke. And obviously they've all of a sudden become two of the best players on the Eagles. And I think people recognize it now.
Yeah, they grew up quick, huh, John?
Yeah. And they talked about moving on from Christian Parker, a lot about Reek Woolen, what he's looked like, which I said was pretty impressive, to say the least, yesterday. And then DeVonta Smith, which was obviously big because AJ's gone and he's going to be the wide receiver one, and but DeVonta's very businesslike. So when he's talking about the trade, he's basically saying, that's not my business, not my responsibility, part of the business. Just a very no nonsense guy. And like I said, I don't worry about DeVonta Smith. I worry about the other guys. But if you were to project, and a lot of people look at Green Bay and translate what's going to happen to the Green Bay offense, and they're just going to throw the open receivers. If you're the betting man, I would bet DeVonta Smith. Obviously, everything's based on playing every game and staying healthy. I don't know. The difference between the targets to DeVonta Smith and whomever number 2 is going to be is massive. Massive.
And how big you thinking? Like, how many targets you thinking DeVonta Smith's going to end up with this year all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, he already, I think a lot of people forget he got the football quite a bit. It's just a matter of, 1A and 1B, so to speak. Last year he caught 77 passes. So I would think he'd be put his targets up 30 or 40, wherever they were last year. And the number 2 is going to be way down from where it was, where he was last year as the number 2, so to speak. I mean, he's just sort of like 2021 when he got here, and it was just like DeVonta and the other guys. That's what it is again.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, Johnny Mac. A lot of good stuff's happening in Eagle Land, obviously. J-Mac started the show hot, debunking the BS out there.
And by the way, when DeVonta from day one, and I remember talking about it all the time, you could see he's different. He was different from what had been around.
Yep, I remember you saying it.
Makai Lemon is not DeVonta Smith as a rookie. He is not DeVonta Smith as a rookie.
Yeah. I'm not surprised to hear that, John. I'm not surprised to hear that. So
first impressions doesn't matter much, but you could tell right away with DeVonta Smith.
Couple super chats real quick, and let me get the Mike Gill here. Here's Dice. What's up, Dice? Johnny, wow. What are we even doing here, Mac and Zander? We'll see how it all plays out. Krause are on fire today. Go get them, boys. Dice, thank you, brother.
You guys are the ones crying.
I think that's what I don't think he was chirping you, John. I think he was saying he was understanding what you were saying.
Yeah.
Here's Brando says, "Come on, Johnny Mac. BG and Ringo liked the post about the Reddick stuff. Of course, that means it's all true. LOL. He's good.
sarcastic.
I hope it's sarcasm.
I think
that's another thing.
Brandon did this last time.
By the way, Brandon Graham, and I know this for a fact because this is going back to the era where the Eagles weren't having tremendous success. At one point, blocked everybody on at the time Twitter, and I know this because my buddy Jimmy Kempsey went to him and said, "Hey, you guys won the Super Bowl," and he promised he'd unblock everybody he blocked when they won Super Bowl 52. And so BG agreed, and he said, I don't know how to unblock everybody. And he doesn't even do his fucking social media. He admitted it. So he didn't block. He didn't follow you. He didn't block. Somebody who does it for him did. So be very careful with your...
Yeah.
Now, there's certain guys, AJ's one of them. He's out there doing his own stuff. And, but yeah, don't be like the wife, oh, you like somebody's post on Instagram. What are we, again, Mike Gill's coming into Gossip Girl season 6. What, he liked an Instagram post. And but Brandon was already very honest about their relationship, as everybody else was, because a lot of us got it from different people. You've already known this for 2 years, that they weren't as close, if you were listening, which a lot of people were not, obviously.
Yep, good stuff. All right, we got more super chats. We'll get to them later. I want to get to Mike Gill here. Let's bring him in now. You can follow him on X at Mike Gill Show. Follow him on YouTube over there too, and listen to his show at 97.3 ESPN down the shore. Mike, welcome to the program on a Wednesday morning. How you doing this morning, man?
Thank God it's over, right?
Is it over, Mike? I thought it was over. I never learned my lesson. I'm gonna rip myself. People think.
I missed I didn't hear the full expository. I don't know what I walked into. About
I'm sure you've seen some of the gossip going around, but I don't want to give that any air. But
well, I was with my masseuse this morning and I missed it.
Yeah, exactly. I always say this in politics when you say you listen, and both sides scream like lunatics, and you're like, well, at least the election's over, no matter who won. And you say, it'll get better. It never gets better. I never gets better. They just amp up and get worse. And that was me. I don't learn from my mistakes. I'm like, well, AJ's finally gone. It'll settle down. It's only getting worse. It's only getting worse, Mike Gill. Everybody's in their feelings. Everybody's
the long runway and buildup of the departure has had everybody holding this stuff in, and now it's like, now I can let it all out, right? I mean, because they probably, this guy had an Instagram post, he had an AI generated picture, he had an interview somehow already done with Maria Taylor. He had the departure.
So we weren't lying. So he was going to get traded this entire time. You got the AJ truthers that claimed everybody was lying, Mike Gill.
Listen, this started
Chandler truthers, I beg your pardon,
somewhere in the middle of the season, and it was kind of like laughed off by like, all right, New England, yeah, that's cute, you want AJ Brown back. And then it's kept on going and going and going and going, and then we're at the Super Bowl, and that's what people are talking about. And and then the head coach and the reporter go and get themselves in in a pickle, and then that kind of like brought it back out again. And then here we are, and it's happening. And then, when we were at the Super Bowl, we had Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, N'Kobe Dean all on the show with us. And, you brought up A.J. Brown's name, and the first thing those guys was like joy on their face of like, that's my guy. Like the defensive players seemingly loved A.J. So that was kind of like, oh, these guys, like, but you didn't get a chance to really ask any offensive players what they thought of AJ. So I don't know.
You just heard Saquon last week.
Yeah. Oh, until right last week
Yeah.
when Saquon got a chance to talk about it, but I think Jordan
Vontae loves
Mailata,
him. It's well liked in
everybody,
that building.
very
Well liked.
exactly. So the whole nature of everybody trying to find why exactly this ended up happening, I find to be quite entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And there's some doozies out there. I'll give them that.
well, that's about, I don't, it's interesting because, everybody wants the simple answer for like football things. Like, why did the offense stink? Well, Kevin Patullo, then now it's going to be better because Kevin Patullo's gone and Sean Mannion's here. They want the simple answer.
Yeah.
With
Most of
this,
the
it
time,
seems they want layers of convoluted nonsense instead of saying, yeah, he wasn't happy with the passing offense and didn't want to be in it any longer, which is basically what happens. Now you have the simple answer.
I think that like Deshaun Jackson probably is closer to the truth. It was probably 60% of on-field stuff and 40% of nonsense. I mean, we always talk about it like there's 53 men, really 68 with the practice
90
squad,
this time of year.
and 90 this time of the year. But during the course of the year, right, you start with 90, you're down to 68. Not everybody's going to like everybody, and not everybody's going to get along. And there's going to be some sort of drama that happens behind closed doors that we may never know, or maybe we will. I mean,
well, but to D-Jack's point, yeah, I mean, as AJ now has publicly said, and we've all reported for basically 2 years, they're not as close.
That's no surprise, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was baked into it.
Like, how many people watching right now know who their godparents are?
It's a good point.
Like, seriously,
a lot of people don't even do it anymore.
Well, but because it was like you had a child at a time in your life when you were really close with somebody in your 20s, and then you got to your 30s and you no longer really associate with that person. Like, I've been in people's wedding parties who I don't even talk to anymore. Not because we don't like each other, just
yeah, you just jerked them. Same way in my younger days. I was in I think at one point 8 or 9 weddings to the point I was like, oh, I got to do this again. And
so
a bunch
I
of
don't think
those,
there's any surprise that they, grew up. Colin Thompson had explained to me a lot when he played. Now, he was a third tight end. So this is like, you're in college and you're playing video games after practice every day and everyone's hanging out. You go to the pros and that first practice, you're like, where's everybody hanging out? And they're like, dude, we got pick up kid from school, blah,
yeah.
blah. Like there's no, and so when he said it's a very lonely existence of like looking for something to do when you have all this time on your hand and you're this young player coming into the league. So, I don't think I thought the crazier part, honestly, guys, was when they traded for AJ Brown. Who knew that these two guys even knew each other, let alone that they were as close as it was being talked about?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people didn't know how close they were
Exactly
when the trade came down. And guys develop relationships. In this case, a lot of times, same with DeVonta and Jalen, it came on when they were getting recruited. And
so you hung out
Jalen,
one weekend. You hung out one weekend, and now you're best friends with the godfather of the parent, the
exactly. Kid. Well, no, and then they stayed together. And OJ, obviously AJ didn't even go to Alabama, and ultimately Jalen left Alabama. But they did stay close, and they were very close for a long period of time. And sort of drifted apart. But that's been going on for 2 years, as he now is admitted publicly, basically with Maria. And they still, how many times when there was success and they were showing joy on the field, these same people making up these weird Gossip Girl season 6 episodes Well, look at them on the field. Everybody's making it up. I don't get it. I don't get the idea they were able to keep it together for the most part. And people point to the San Francisco game and make these grandiose conclusions that I've already heard that AJ was trying to make Jalen look bad. I mean, come on.
Look, in 2023, I think you guys were talking about Brandon Graham. I don't know what in reference to, but he basically said, yeah, they don't have the same relationship. They won the Super Bowl the next year. So
exactly.
Yeah, they did have a split in their relationship in terms of they just grew apart, for whatever reason, too. Like the point being is that they could have hated each other to extreme depths, and they still won the Super Bowl the next year after 2023. So whatever story is out that you want to cling on and believe, I don't have an opinion on that. All I know is they won the Super Bowl post 2023 when their relationship began to deteriorate to some extent.
And I think that was Howie's mindset last year when, very early, whenever AJ went on the Twitch stream or whatever it was, and basically called the offense, I believe the term was a shit show, and trade me on fantasy or whatever he said. I think that was Howie's mentality at the time. Well, we won last year, and he was upset about the offense. Why can't we win this year? And it didn't work. And maybe should have moved quicker, in trying to get him out the door. But it is what it is at this point.
Well, if you win the Super Bowl and then your very next move is to trade AJ Brown the next offseason, I don't think that's going to go over very well.
It was more in season last year I was talking about. Like, you're
talking about making it. But even still.
Was that true? Was that true that he requested a trade after week 4?
Well, it was I would say it was well known in the building by that point that he wanted out. I don't believe there was any formal request for a trade, but it was more like kind of well known that he would prefer to have a fresh start somewhere else. And they decided to stand pat because they won that, as Mike said, the year prior when they wasn't happy with the offense.
Right, and they were still winning last year. So to pull off a trade in the middle of the season when you're still having team success, maybe not offensive success, would have probably been a little bit of a jarring situation, especially with a player of that magnitude. Winning teams don't generally, say, hey, we're going to trade one of our top offensive assets while the team is having success. So your inclination is to try to ride it out and hope that it reverts back to championship form. It never did.
I don't know. Didn't they started like 4-0? He might have said that like when they were winning, the shit show stuff, or I think he said it pretty early before the wheels came off. But I don't recall some of the.
They just never had any consistency on offense the entire season. Not at all. Like, not from one week to the next ever did they have any sort of consistency on their offense.
No, I mean, it hasn't been a good passing offense in 2 years. And you could argue 2+ 2 and some change. At least, I think it was.
What's the trade deadline? What date is that? Do you know? What week is that?
Early November. They kicked it back a week.
So right around the bye week last year. Yeah, they're 6-2. They're 7-2. They're 8-2. Into mid-November. They're 8-2 in mid-November, but they're really not scored. I mean, 10 against Green Bay, 16 against Detroit, and then they lost 3 in a row, and that's probably post-deadline at that point.
Yeah.
And that's where he ends up with like 3 straight 100-yard games, but they lose all 3 games.
Which in theory should make him happy for the statistics people. But yeah, I mean, I ultimately AJ, who I like personally, and I say all the time, but
I think a lot of people do, though. That's the thing. And I remember talking about this during that time is he's just a very charming guy. He'll flash that smile and he just wins over the media hub of like, there's AJ. He's such a nice and charismatic seeming guy. And he had that ability just to kind of diffuse a lot of stuff. But obviously behind closed doors, he was probably
and he would often do stuff very intentionally too, to try to,
which he admitted.
Yeah. But I bring that up only to say that, he often, and he knows that too, he often gets in his own way when he does some of this stuff on social media specifically. And ultimately, I just think he's kind of a tortured soul. He's never going to be happy. They'll have the honeymoon, but he will have issues in New England because it's his nature. And maybe that's what makes him a great player. Because I think, people look at Drake May and say, well, it's going to be fine because Drake May is a high volume thrower. He can get the ball down the field. He's still a very young quarterback. Still's got a lot to learn.
Yeah, I agree.
Be a lot of hurdles he's going to have to go through, and it's not all going to be pretty. And I find it very hard to believe over the next 4 seasons they're going to win 70% of their games. It just doesn't work that way. So they'll have their honeymoon period, but ultimately I think he'll start having problems there as well because that's his history.
No doubt. Mike, who do you think the pressure's on now in Philly after the departure of AJ Brown? Is it Mannion? Is it Jalen? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think both of those guys, yeah. I mean, Mannion comes in as now he's the savior, right? You're the guy who's going to change this offense. You're the guy who's going to put this brand new offense in, and that's going to fix everything. So, yeah, he gets, and we know in this town, it doesn't matter what sport it is, it's always the coach's fault. So Mannion is high on the list, and obviously Hurts. I mean, for a guy who's won the Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, been to the playoffs, done nothing but win, he is not universally beloved by the fan base. He's a polarizing guy. Some people think they win because of him. Others think they win in spite of him. And now you've gotten away. You've basically kicked A.J. Brown to the curb. This is almost like the Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris thing, right? You picked Jalen Hurts over me. It's almost like they elected that Hurts was more important than A.J. Brown was. And Brown, we're showing you the door. We're keeping the quarterback, and we're going to build the offense, a completely new offense around him without you. So now many people would say, well, Brown wanted out. I would imagine if the Eagles said, we'll get rid of Hurts, we want you to stay, maybe he would have changed his tune. Who knows? But that puts the pressure, obviously, now on Jalen Hurts to show you can perform. Do something that you have not been able to do. When A.J. Brown has not played, his numbers are considerably worse. And that a lot of those numbers do come from that first season, which really, isn't fair. But games that A.J. has not played over time, his numbers are a drastic drop-off. So the pressure obviously on the field goes to Hurts, and Mannion by proxy as the new coach who will be judged right away because that offense has been so poor with so much talent. It's now the guy here to try to fix it. So both those guys shoot up the totem pole of pressure.
Let's take it on the field, Mike, because they did have an open practice yesterday, and boy, I got to tell you,
that guy lost in the sauce a little bit.
Yeah, Makai Lemon had a hamstring, so he was not practicing. And I don't know, obviously you're hyper-focused because it's the first practice without A.J. Brown. And DeVonta was there and Dontavian Wicks. But Hollywood Brown was getting first-team reps. Elijah Moore was getting some first-team reps. All of a sudden, you say to yourself, boy, this could turn bad quickly.
Well, if Makai Lemon is going to be perpetually in and out of the training room right off the bat, that's not a good sign, right? I mean, he's the guy really that you've brought in to, I don't want to say replace A.J. Brown, but he's going to get a lot of reps. That's the thing that we forget about. A.J. and DeVonta had almost all the reps. There wasn't even a third guy involved in the offense for the most part. For what, 4 years now, you're talking about that they really didn't even have a third guy get any targets or reps. Now you're changing the offense to where you're trying to incorporate a new number 2, a 3, maybe a 4. I mean, that's something that this offense really just hasn't even done for Jalen Hurts. But if your first option to replace A.J. Brown in terms of reps and targets is already banged up, especially a hamstring, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not. Especially, as I like to say, at the thoroughbred positions, anytime you get fast guys and hamstrings start to pop up, you got to keep a close eye on it. Offense as a whole started very poorly. Interception on first 7-on-7 rep. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. It was pitch and catch because I still don't know who Jalen Hurts was trying to throw the football to. Got better. Saquon had a big wheel route touchdown, but I would say defensively, the group looks way more advanced, and they should. I mean, this is year 3 of Vic Fangio. Tariq Woolen looked tremendous in the practice.
That's good news.
Now that AJ's gone, I think finally, it's interesting because the defense has been the strength of this team since Vic arrived.
Yeah.
But this is the first year where I think everybody knows the defense is the strength of this team. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because I think the conversation has constantly started with Brown and Smith, right? Every time you would have a conversation for the last 4 years, you would say, you have this offense with Brown and Smith and Barkley and Hurts and this offensive line. Like, you could just wax poetic about the talent that always started with those two guys. Defensively, it has now grown into this spot because, the first year you had Cooper and Quinyon as rookies and you didn't know what impact they would have. And then last year it was more about, can they, replicate what they did as rookies? And now in year number 3, you're really expecting them, obviously, as we're talking about, they now take over the identity of the team is the strength of Quinyon and Cooper. Now, Cooper will be interesting this year. I certainly am intrigued to see what Woolen brings to the table now, because that was a spot that, was probably mediocre in the last couple of years, the spot opposite Quinyon Mitchell. And then your pass rush with Grenard, Jalix Hunt now in year number 3. What's Nolan Smith? You got Jalen Carter. I mean, so yeah, you've got guys who have some identity. Zach Bond now in his 3rd year. So you definitely have some guys who have had some more track record. So I think the identity does, you're right, shifts to the defense instead of the offense. And look, that shows you the power of A.J. Brown. Is that team was identified by their offense because it was always Brown and Smith. And now with just Smith and no Brown, it shifts all the way over to the defense.
Yeah, well, it does. Well, I mean, it did look a lot better with them both out there. Go ahead, Johnny Mac.
Did you hear Jordan Mailata talk about Sean Mannion? I think that's going to fire some people up.
Yeah, he's the evil genius, right?
Evil genius. He's an evil genius. He just knows ball. The guy knows ball.
I think we're going down the road of the next incarnation of what drama will happen in Philadelphia, because there's always got to be something. And the nature of, if the offense improves, and I don't even know, drastically, if they just, like, I've been on here before and saying there's no reason with Brown and Smith and Barkley and this offensive line, like, they should just roll out on a Sunday and score 27 points a game, right? I mean, that's where it was like incomprehensible that they couldn't just like by accident score 3 touchdowns and kick a field goal. And, you know, you got 24 and maybe 2 field goals and you're at 27. The fact that they were so bad offensively, Sean Mannion to these guys has to be a breath of fresh air. Like, it just has to be like, holy crap, someone who knows what they're doing. This is unbelievable. Like the elementary.
There's one high profile guy who isn't on that isn't in a said same shit, different day, basically. Looks different because it's from under center. But I got to tell you, Mike, there was a shitload of dump offs yesterday.
Well, I mean, even like Jalen Hurts, though, who generally doesn't give you anything, you know, it seems that he is just impressed by the fact that if he had a question about why, that the man had an answer. Like, it was almost unfathomable to him that he asked the man a question and the man gave him a satisfactory answer. Like, the fact that Hurts was so impressed by that is like, what were you dealing with in the past?
Well, I think that was in tune with, like, you know, if you go back to Jeremy Fowler and Tim's piece on, you know, his pushback last year with the offense, it was about the change in season. So basically, they started what they're doing now, in season last year with coaches who don't have as much expertise in it, with Nick and Kevin. Now these guys have more expertise in it. And remember, they had gone through the spring and the summer and training camp playing like they played when they won the Super Bowl. So, you know, Jalen's kind of pushback was, well, why are we doing this mid-season when we haven't prepared to do it? Mm-hmm. Which I found to be very astute, to be honest, because I don't know why you try. That's something you do in the offseason, like they're doing now.
Well, unless you change quarterbacks, you know, like
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, there could always be circumstance, and there was circumstance now. They felt that was, you know, the why was they felt that was, you know, they could fix it. But
like you just said yesterday, a lot of dump offs and stuff. So when they made the switch to Kellen Moore, I think a lot of people were hoping that visually the offense would have a different aesthetic to it, and that didn't really ever happen.
Well, that's kind of my point. Like, and I told Zander I compared it to, you know, old product, new branding.
Yeah.
You know, like when your favorite product at the supermarket gets a new logo or something, it's the same thing, but it looks a little bit nicer, or it looks a little bit fresher.
Then is because Mannion's offense, or what we think it shall be, when you watch San Francisco play or the Rams play, they don't look like the Eagles. They just don't. Their offense just does not look like what the Eagles' offense looks like. You're saying that what you saw yesterday, now it's 7-on-7 passing drills for the most part.
Yeah, people are going to take this wrong, because they always take it wrong. Because and I won't even use Jalen Hurts. Tom Brady's offenses all looked very similar. Now, he had a lot of continuity for a long time, but, you know, his offenses in Tampa looked very similar to what was done in New England. Peyton Manning, very similar from Denver to, and I'm not judging success when they had 600 points, very similar to what he did in Indianapolis. When you have a quarterback who's good, the offense is going to look very similar no matter the changes on the coaching staff. And I think you've seen it more with Jalen Hurts from the perspective of, you have so many different offensive coordinators and play callers, basically one every year, except for Shane bleeding over. And it all looks very similar. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, people talk themselves, oh, it was much different with Shane Steichen. No, it wasn't. It was more effective.
Mm-hmm.
The more I was talking to this, the more is, same shit, different branding.
Right.
Is basically, and I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way.
If you watch,
to your point about Manning and Brady and those guys, it makes sense. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
No, if you watch a lot of stuff that, St. Louis, LA does, they're like Puka Nacua. They'll move him from right to left underneath and cut him underneath back through the Eagles had very little creativity with their route conceptions. It was very basic stuff. And people would say, well, their passing game is so elementary. And it was like, well, they could be very elementary because the running game was so good that Jalen many times only had a lot of one-on-one coverage because everyone's stacked in the box for Saquon Barkley. Well, then Barkley can't run last year. So instead of having, 8 in the box, they don't need to do that. So now there's more guys in coverage, and these elementary route patterns have more players to read and in the passing lanes. So now you got to find more creative ways to get these guys open, and they just never really kind of adjusted to that.
Mike, I want to ask you what you think of Howie Roseman's offseason right now. I compare it to the Rams right now because and many will think I'm comparing to the Rams because they just traded for Myles Garrett, but I actually look at it as they're the two teams in the NFC in the last 3-4 years to me that have been the cream of the crop every single year. They're in contention. They're in the playoffs. They battle with one another. Eagles have gotten the better of them. They're out here trading first-round picks, multiple of them, and great players to do whatever it takes to get their team over the top. And in Philadelphia this offseason, that's not to say Howie's not a great GM. They got rid of a great player on offense and decided to replace him with a draft pick, a rookie player, and a bunch of receivers that have really, never been all that great in the NFL. Now, I understand there's different circumstances. I understand AJ wanted out. I'm not trying to right every wrong here, but it just feels like this hasn't been a great offseason for Howie when you're talking about a team that the window is open. When the window is open, go and get it. Make the move to go and get it.
So there's a couple things here. One, I certainly would have been in play for Myles Garrett. I guess they were. I don't know. Some people said they asked for Jalen Carter. Guess what? Jalen Carter, nice to know you. I would have traded for Myles Garrett. That's a player that, to me, Myles Garrett's an all-timer. Jalen Carter, very, very good. Is he going to be an all-timer? I don't know. Myles Garrett.
I don't think there's. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't think the Browns would have taken Jalen Carter over Jared Verse for two reasons. One, Jared Verse is entering his third year, so they have the cost-effective nature of it. And right away, you're going to have to get a deal done with Jalen Carter. That's going to have to be top of the line.
Which is fine. I'm just saying if that's what they asked for, I would have done that because I
would have done it. Yeah.
I don't think the draft compensation was over the top. I mean, you gave up a 1, 2, and a 3. Great. I certainly would have been involved in there if I could have. Like, in other words, if they asked before the Rams and you said no to that, I don't know where that.
Yeah, I don't think the Eagles would have said no to that, but
Florio reported, John, that the Browns wanted Carter and the Eagles weren't willing to do it. I think I read that. Let me make sure.
Yeah, I know I read that as well, and that the Eagles offered Hunt or Smith or were more willing. That being said, I think you have to look at the AJ Brown trade and include Jonathan Grenard in that deal. Because the $30 million that they're now saving is why they were able to trade for Grenard. They can't make that deal without knowing that they're moving A.J. Brown. So that freed up $30 million for them. part of the savings from breaking up the money over the 2 years instead of trading him before June 1st was now we can trade for Jonathan Grenard and give him the extension that he's looking for. So you have this $30 million extra. And then consequently, Zander, you have to sign Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, and if you like Nolan Smith, he's got to be in there as well. You needed to get that money freed up in some capacity. This is the capacity that at least opens up a window of that money to do so. So while I have been one who pontificated, how do you trade A.J. Brown and not help out the 2026 team because they have Super Bowl aspirations? The behind deal or no deal maker is saying, I didn't have the money to get Jonathan Grenard, and I also need the money to sign these guys. So if you want those guys, I liked it yesterday on my show too. You got your bonus at work, but because your bonus is taxed so ridiculously, the bonus that you thought was like, oh, I got all this extra money turns into meh. It's not really all that great. And the money that I have in this bonus has to go towards all these bills anyway. So that money came in and went right back out the door. That's essentially how this extra $30 million is going to end up being spent. It's not going to be to go joyriding and have trips all around the world. It's going to be to pay down your debt and, get yourself back on good standing. Not a fun way to look at it, but
no, I think that
I get the comment.
To sort of wrap up what you're saying, because I think a lot of people are always caught up in the immediacy of everything because that's just what you're focused on and now. And, the Eagles are perceived as a Super Bowl contender. So, why are you getting a pick in 2028 for A.J. Brown? And it's like, that's what makes GM being difficult, because you can make an argument if you want to go Grenard, like if the Eagles would have known, like, I think a lot of the Eagles Myles Garrett stuff is the timing didn't work out. And it's like, you're trying to help the team now with getting Grenard, who, by the way, I think I've said pretty consistently, very good player. I think the fan base is going to love him, but he's not Myles Garrett. But at the time you're making the deal for Jonathan Grenard, you don't know necessarily that Myles is going to go. And if you did, maybe you wait because you want to make the big splash for Myles Garrett. But it's like that's why it's a really tough job, because I think the timing of the Myles Garrett thing was like, can we do both? Probably not. Grenard and Garrett. Even if Cleveland had been interested in, which I don't think they would have been either. So,
yeah.
I think
now,
the Rams had the better piece to offer.
One of the dominoes that we also thought could have happened was you trade A.J. Brown if you're not happy with a 2028. And I think the compensation is 2028. Now, when 2028 gets here, it's going to be one of those things. Like,
it's going to look awesome, by the way, in 2028.
Right. Well, we have 2 first-round picks, and we're coming off of a great, that's the hope. But I think some people thought you would take the 2028 and then include that in a trade for somebody like a Myles
Well,
Garrett.
that's the flexibility. That's the Sam Hinkie part of this, the optionality. I hate to use Sam, but Mike's a big Sam guy. So optionality of, look, guess what? If the quarterback plays poorly again, you're going to have those difficult discussions. And now you have an extra first-round pick to maybe go make a move if you like a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, in 2028, this is going to be, if they hold on to this pick, this will be like, wow, remember that move that they made? Because, the book will be written on A.J. Brown, whether he will have been a success, whether he will have been that blew that whole situation up. So the trade will now be legislated by then, and then you have the extra piece. This is like Oklahoma City, not on the same realm, but They have 5 first-round picks. That trade for Paul George that they made in 2019 is not done yet. They still have pieces coming in for that deal.
And they can use that assets available to them to use immediately.
Well, and with sports, we as fans, many times people don't realize that there's no end of the road. It's just a constant evolution of the team. We always look in the now. We only care about 2026.
Yeah.
And Howie Roseman, one of the things that makes him be Howie Roseman that others don't have is he doesn't have to worry about getting fired. So he can make a trade that helps the team 3 years down the road. The guy in Cleveland really can't do that because 3 to 5 years down the road, he won't be there to make those picks because if the trade doesn't work out. So, that's why he makes a trade for 2028 because realistically, he can think about 2028. Most GMs can't.
It's a fair point. We'll see what they end up doing this year. Mike, we appreciate you joining in today, man. We waited, and boom, June 1, that thing smacked the news cycle. Didn't wait at all. We appreciate you doing it today, Mike. Make sure you guys follow Mike at Mike Gill Show. Listen to his show at 97.3 ESPN Down the Shore, the best sports program in all of New Jersey, and that includes North Jersey. How about that? Mike, good stuff, man. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, boys, back to the masseuse.
There you go. Later, Mike.
Thanks,
Thank you,
bud.
brother. There's Mike Gill joining us right here on Birds 365. Good stuff there. We appreciate Mike doing it. Johnny Mac, some good conversation around this, man. I'm happy that AJ, that whole saga is gone. And now the Eagles will now prepare to try and, get back to contention and competing with the best in the NFL in a new looking offense without a player who's really been a big part of it the last couple of years. So it will be interesting to see how it all shakes out this year.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, like the AJ stuff isn't going away, but ultimately, the offense and what it looks like and how effective it is going to be the story of the year. And I think it's mainly got to do with the offensive line, but I think the offense is, one of Jalen's famous quotes, the offense is going to look like how Jalen Hurts wants it to look, I think is ultimately going to end up to be true. Branded differently, and I always bring up Sean McVay. And that's what they're doing, Sean McVay, Krause, but I bring up Sean specifically because he's been honest about his offense more than most coaches. And probably because he's so well regarded. I mean, let's be honest, he's the guy in the modern NFL. If you want to hire a coach, go to his staff. And again, anybody can go online and look this up. He's got a core foundation of 10 to 12 primary passing concepts. That's it. You guys are making it out to be more complicated than it is.
Well, we'll see. I mean, John, am I being too tough on the Eagles offseason with Howie Roseman here? I mean, it's hard for me to not look at the contrast between the two teams. And I understand the situations are different. So I'm probably going to break the John McMullen rule of never look at things in a vacuum. And maybe I am doing that right now. But boy, that Rams team, they're all in. I mean, Jared Verse, good guy. He's a great player. They're
I don't like losing
do
Jared
whatever.
Verse. I'm around.
But I like getting Myles Garrett.
No, so do I. I would have done it. I'm not criticizing Les Snead. Now,
it's like the Eagles they're they made some.
The example is, but again, because you get a player like Myles Garrett, so the natural inclination is that the Rams are all in, and they are all in from a perspective of, how people look at things. But on the same year that everybody's claiming they're all in, they took Ty Simpson at 13 overall, who isn't going to play for, in their hope, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, you would think, yep.
I mean, it's like everybody's doing the parallel pass at the same time, the good GMs, and Les Snead is certainly in that category. Now
That showcase there's more than one way to do it, right? I mean, they'd barely taken first-round picks, and they just took one with Jared Verse, and they got rid of him.
Yeah. Well, no, he's obviously, they branded that F them picks, it's perfect example of that. But
I think somebody did the decade numbers though, John. It was like Rams and Eagles edged them out like barely, and like playoff wins were the same, and then like Super Bowls, Eagles had two, and they had one.
Well, if you boil it down to Nick's era, it's not as close because they always beat them.
Yeah, correct.
But if you look at it, for people, yes, the Rams have traded a bunch of first round picks, but they have also hit on a lot of draft picks. Later round draft.
Puka Nacua was what, a 5th rounder?
Yeah.
Braden Fisk. I think he was taken right before Cooper, wasn't he?
He was a 2nd round pick. Yeah.
He was like 43. Remember, I think Howie thought they were taking Cooper.
They thought the Rams were going up to get Cooper DeJean, but they ended up taking Braden Fisk. But if you actually look at their drafts, and I'm trying to pull it up, they have gotten a lot of hits. Later in the draft. As you pointed out, guys who play for them. Terrence Ferguson is one of their, they have 70 tight ends. He was the 2nd round pick last year. You mentioned Fisk. He was the 2nd round pick when they drafted Verse, one of their few 1st round picks. They also drafted Blake Corum, who's their contributor, Cameron Kitches in the 3rd round, who's turned into a big time safety for them. Even Bo Limmer's played for them. Steve Avila, one of their starting guards, was a 2nd round pick. Byron Young is one of the best pass rushers in the league. The 3rd round pick, Kobe Turner, is an awesome player, was a 3rd round pick. Warren McClendon pays for them. As you pointed out, Puka Nacua. They got Byron Young, Kobe Turner, and Puka Nacua in the same draft. So the idea that they got Kobe Durant, Kyron Williams in the 4th and 5th round. Like they've been the best drafting team outside of the 1st round. They've gotten a shitload of contributors in the draft. So I think, to your point, I mean, people look at things in a vacuum. They trade their 1st round picks. Yeah, they do a lot with the other picks.
Yeah, they do. It's a fair point. You still need draft picks to build out the roster, to your point.
Yeah. So they've done a tremendous job drafting and been able to accentuate it with the Myles Garretts of the world. But in the very same year when they get Myles Garrett, they drafted Ty Simpson with the 13th pick, and he's not going to play for at least 2 seasons. Now, everybody thought they were going to draft Makai Lemon. And they got Max Clare in the 2nd round, and I bet you he turns into a player for them.
Am I the only one left, John? I'm good with the quarterback going to the bench, man, even if they're a 1st round pick. I remember Andy Reid traded up, drafted Patrick Mahomes at 9 or 10. Sat him on the bench behind Alex Smith.
Well, I'm saying we started this with, are you being too hard on Howie Roseman? Well, if you're using your standard for the Eagles, you got to use it for the Rams, and they got a player with the 13th pick who will not contribute to their Super Bowl hopes.
But they did do enough to tilt the scale, to tilt the seesaw the other way. When you trade for Myles Garrett,
that's fine, but it's not like the Eagles didn't get Jonathan Grenard, I'm not comparing the player, and Reek Woolen. It's not like they made their strength even stronger on defense by getting those 2 players. Not, nearly the splash of Myles Garrett. But, he's done some shit as well. So I do think, and that's the one thing I said yesterday on the show when do you think the Eagles are trying to, basically derail Jalen Hurts? I'm like, no, they don't think that way. They try to win.
Yeah, the best case scenario would be him playing great and they give him a new contract, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it would buy them more cap room, cap space.
Yeah.
They would
They
kick
don't
it all
want to be
down the
looking
road.
for a new quarterback, but they want to have
I
the
get that.
assets to do it. Because it's hard to find quarterbacks who can win at the level of Jalen Hurts.
Well, I hope this offense is created in a way where he can flourish because, I mean, based on what you said about yesterday's practice, maybe it will be more. Based on, I heard DeVonta yesterday. I think it was Dave Spadaro asked him, John, and he's like, just how different is this new offense? And DeVonta kind of looked at him. I'm sure you were there, and he's like, man, it's different. And then they kind of asked him to elaborate on what's different, and he kind of shelled up and was just like, I don't know yet, So,
well,
they're all saying though it's different. And you can definitely tell they all think it's different.
Yeah,
they're learning something new. There's got to be something about it.
I wish I could. I wish, but I got some funny shit yesterday that I can't talk about, but legitimately funny, laugh out loud stuff. The packaging is different. It is very different. Like that's why I'm using the supermarket comparison.
You went from a mom and pop and you sold out to Kellogg's or something, and you got fresh new branding.
You got new branding. Like if you do new logos for us,
yeah, and we
would be the same show. Unless you replace me, but it's going to be the same show. When they if you replace me, it'll be a different show. If the Eagles replace Jalen Hurts, Birds 365, well, it'll be a different show. If you replace me,
it's a fair comp.
When the Eagles replace Jalen, it will be a different style of offense. When they had, and that's why I brought up, put Jalen Hurts out of it. Look at any long-time starting quarterback. It's very similar. Even if they change teams, it's very similar.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it shakes out this show. Let's get to some super chats. We got BLG coming up here in a little bit. Here's Brian Fleming. Mike Gill was bopping the massage therapist too, and that's why he went to Thailand to become a late. Oh, come on. Petullo hired the masseuse.
We do have a bunch of Gossip Girl fans.
We really do. We got more of those than I ever remember there being. Fleming, is that you, brother? Are you bringing them in, all the Gossip Girls? Here's Power Ranger. People have to remember, Howie loves the fifth-year option to build his team. A second in 2027 doesn't hold the long-term value that a first does. I trust it. Yeah, me too. I'm good with Howie with doing it.
Yeah, 50-year options are depending on. I've had this discussion with Howie. It depends on the position. It depends on, some positions you don't want a 50-year option. Running back being the most notable. But yeah, quarterback is generally the one. That's why you see a lot of years teams will come up in the bottom of the first round to get a 50-year option. But sometimes you don't want a 50-year option. And most recently, who signed the extension? Oh, Jack Campbell, phenomenal player.
Speaking of extensions, how about Drake London yesterday? Holy moly. I'm not paying that guy $35 million.
I'm saying, like, one of the best linebackers in the NFL coming off I don't know if he made All-Pro, but he certainly made Pro Bowl. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. And it was like a big story at the time. It's like, Campbell, they didn't pick up it. They extended him, because they were always going to extend him. And then with Tyler Linderbaum in Baltimore. And in that case, they didn't sign him. Great player, multiple programs.
By the way, but I digress.
You don't want it at the center position because
the guy. They let him walk out the building.
The stupid way they do it is everybody's lumped together. And in that particular position. So, and that's why teams fight. Well, are you a defensive end or are you a linebacker? Because it's better to be a defensive end. again, labeling hurts the business aspect. So sometimes you don't even want a fifth-year option. But with a quarterback, you do.
Power Ranger, thank you for the super chat. And here's Abe. What's up, Abe? When you had two highly paid wide receivers, you expect them both to be included in the offense. Now only having one, could it be easier to switch wide receivers into plays?
Could it be easier to?
I guess he's saying like, the rotational element. You used to say,
easier to
you're paying
play.
$20 million on a running back. You're not taking him off the field.
Look,
maybe similar.
the old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have any. The same thing holds at other positions. Like they're so deep they can rotate in six guys. You don't want to rotate six guys. You want two really good ones. You really three really good ones who are going to play the top two 90% of the snaps if they're healthy. And depending on how much you play 11, which the Eagles want to play, but that'll be dependent. Like the Rams for years played more 11 personnel than any team in the NFL, often over 90%. And all of a sudden, Sean McVay didn't have the depth at receiver, and he had a bunch of tight ends, and he played more 13 than anybody in the NFL, which is a credit to him. But you want good players. You don't want a bunch of mediocre or above average players. You want great players. If you have great players, that's the goal. And again, and AJ said it, Howie said it the entire time. Well, we're not in the business of trading great players unless they force their way out. And that's what happened here. Sometimes you have to, but the goal is always to get the big time player, not populated with a bunch of even above average players.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, good super chat. Here's Marshall. What's up, Marshall? When does the Jersey burning star of everyone taking the high road? That pre-recorded interview told me everything I need to know. That guy is a bum.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a bum on the field, and he was a big part. He was the best player on the best Eagles run in modern history. Is how I describe A.J. Brown. The best pure football player during the best run of Eagles history in the modern era. Now, I get it. People are in their emotions. Hopefully down the road, you'll realize that was pretty fucking cool because it was a pretty cool player to watch. I'll tell you that. And I didn't think he'd be this good when he came from Tennessee, but he really was that good. But I get why everybody are in their emotions right now.
King taking over says it's a beautiful thing to step into covenant. There you go. You go. Good stuff.
I love that line. I love that.
Yeah,
I will use that Jalen line moving forward forever. It is a beautiful thing to step into covenant.
All right, good stuff. We got BLG, Brandon Lee Gouton, set to join us here on Birds 365. He joins us right now. You can follow him on X at Brandon Gouton. Read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, a big week in Eagle Land. How you doing this Wednesday morning, my friend?
A lot to talk about relative to, especially this time of year. Normally, a lot more happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The first thing, at practice, I'm trying not to turn this into Gossip Girl season 6, as I've said, but, watching practice, I did. I don't know if it was because you're hyper-focused because it's first practice without AJ being a part of the team. Obviously he wasn't there, but before, and we all knew he was going, and then Makai Lemon shows up with a hamstring, and you're like, boy, I'm watching first team reps with Hollywood Brown. Like DeVonta's out there and even Wicks, but Hollywood Brown. I saw Elijah Moore get some first team reps. I'm like, boy, this could go bad really quickly. BLG, did you get that sense?
I've never thought the Eagles should trade AJ Brown from a standpoint of like moving on from the talent. Like that was not, the point of contention. Everyone can agree, even if you're glad AJ is gone, that like the team is worse now that he is off of it. And maybe it's a big maybe they have enough to kind of, work around it in the aggregate of, Sean Mannion here and, you're spreading the ball around. But like, I think that's all. It's a big maybe, like I just said, and that's all very pie in the sky. And when you lose a player who's been as awesome as AJ Brown, down here last year, still had like the 30th best receiving season in Eagles history. Like that was his worst year, and the other ones are like top 5.
I know his bad year is last year, which it's
his
production.
His worst year, to put this in perspective, was better than like Jordan Matthews' best year ever.
Yeah. I mean, Zach and I were talking a little bit. Zach Berman on the sideline. He said, "Now I got to cover Randy Moss, so he's not number 1, but he's number 2 for me as best receivers I've ever gotten to cover." Zach said, "By far the best." You've seen a lot of Eagles receivers over the years. I would imagine he was number 1 on your list, but I don't want to taint it. Where do you place him in Eagles lore?
I don't know who else it would be. I mean, Devontae's really great, but I think AJ, has been better than him to this point. I just watching in my life, you're looking at it's between AJ and T.O., I think, in my time watching the Eagles. I don't even know who's contending for that spot.
Do you think after it dies down a little bit down the road, because people are in their emotions, you see a lot of, and AJ does some stuff and passes, there's no doubt about it. And obviously his love of the Patriots is rubbing people the wrong way, but he's in the honeymoon phase there. That'll change. Do you think people will recognize down the road just what he meant to this run? I think that's how I frame it. This is the best run in Eagles modern history. I don't want to go back to 1949 and 50, but so I'll say modern Eagles history. And I think he's the best pure football player on the team for the vast majority of the time during that run. I think that's pretty good.
Yes, I agree. I think fans are allowed to feel how they want to feel about this. It sucks. This is a bad conclusion, to what should have been in a ideal world, not even like super ideal, just a realistic kind of world. Like AJ Brown should have been an Eagle for life. Like he should have been, based on just like how
he said it himself, didn't he? Didn't he say that before? Yeah,
he said in his video when he joined the team that like this is the jersey I'm going to be retiring in.
Right.
I think that was the plan. I don't think he was lying about that when he said that. I think things clearly went awry, but that sucks and that's unfortunate. And I don't think people take joy in that, and I think people are allowed to be emotional that didn't happen. AJ's allowed to be emotional about like he was last year. Did he always express himself in the most productive ways? No. But it wasn't coming from nowhere. It wasn't just like totally out of left field, totally off base. He was frustrated. And it's a frustrating situation for Eagles fans to deal with now that one of the best players, I think, one of the best players ever that's played for the team, as John just said, in an era where they might never have more success in anyone's lifetime, is gone. And it kind of had to happen, but it sucks. It's unfortunate.
And BLG, do those emotions, while maybe being justifiable, do you think they've clouded maybe some of the fans' perspective on what just happened? I mean, we're in the middle of a run, BLG. The last 4 years, John just talked about, this team has been, all of us, before even seeing what they did, we all said, this is one of the best teams in the league. Now, will they get to where they want to get to? We'll find out, but they're one of the best teams in the league. Well, they just replaced a great all-pro receiver with a draft pick and Dontavian Wicks. With all due respect to those players, they're not A.J. Brown. Meanwhile, the Rams, another team that's been in contention, adds Myles Garrett, goes for Trent McDuffie. I'm like, they're going for it. The Eagles, I'm like, are they going for it? Are they regrouping? Are they retooling? Kind of trying to get the feel for it. Do you think the emotions have maybe clouded some of the truth about losing a player that good?
Absolutely. And I think it's just, you take it for granted because like AJ and DeVonta have been like mostly healthy, you know, since they've since 2022 when they were both on the team, and they've been like pretty much awesome. Again, even in their down year last year, still like a really good year relative to Eagles history. Certainly, you can't just assume that the next guys are like definitely going to be great and oh, no big loss. I mean, Eagles fans themselves earlier this offseason, for a big portion of the offseason, were so convinced AJ wasn't getting traded. Because why would you do that? That would be insane, right? And then so you can't have that position and then be like, oh, actually, it doesn't matter if you get rid of him. It doesn't even make a difference. No, it does make a difference. Absolutely. It doesn't mean the Eagles are hopeless, left for dead, can't possibly succeed. But it's like a more challenging path that they have now. And as you said, not only just because you lose AJ, but because the other teams in the conference, the Rams especially, seemingly are getting better as well.
There is some positive, and I think most of the positive comes on the defensive side. And I think, you know, maybe it's the shift with AJ leaving, but I think for the first time, even though really, in my opinion, the strength of this Eagles team has been the defense since Big got here. Now, we didn't know it in year one or early on because you had rookies with Quinion and Cooper, but they developed so quickly. I think people are going to start to realize, you know what? The defense is the strength of this team. I thought Reek Woolen looked phenomenal yesterday, BLG. Bernard's not out there fully yet, and it doesn't matter. Defensive line in spring anyway. Basically glorified 7-on-7s, but yeah, those two players to this defense, and I think it's going to be even better. And Jihad Campbell's injured right now, coming back from shoulder surgery. Throw him in the mix as well. This, I think, still remains a Super Bowl contender. Don't get me wrong, the Rams on paper are better. Seattle probably on paper better. But, you know, an injury or two, I think the window's still open, mainly because of the defense. Too optimistic, or you're in that category?
I think it's hard to be like too optimistic about the Eagles defense. I mean, what's the reason to look at them and be like, well, they're not going to be great? Is it just because of the safety position? Like, I think that's kind of overblown from a standpoint of no team is, you know, has all pros at like every single player on the roster. There's going to be a weak point. And kind of a big development here that Andrew Makuba, by the way, is fully participating in these practices. Like, that seems like a good sign for him heading into year two, and wasn't necessarily the expectation heading into these spring workouts. I think Marcus Epps is a solid player. He's fine. Like, I don't think this Eagles 2026 obituary, if it's written, you know, before they win the Super Bowl, they don't win the Super Bowl, isn't going to lead with Marcus Epps was the safety, so they couldn't win the championship. Like, I don't think that's going to sink the season there, and they could still add to that position. And, you know, maybe someone rises up the depth chart that they currently have. Who knows? But and also maybe it just doesn't even matter a lot because
they have a sick group of cornerbacks. Like, that should help out a little bit.
And the depth too. They added Jonathan Jones. He's had
some
moments
player,
in the spring
man.
Here.
He is a good player.
Certainly more playable than, like, you know, Keely Ringo or, you know, Corey and Bennett were when the Eagles had to rely on them. If, you know, Dory Jackson left the game last year. So, yeah, I feel really good about this defense.
Yeah, defense looks super good.
I think the highlight, because Jordan Mailata, I love Jordan. How could you not love Jordan Mailata? But, man, he is prone to some hyperbole. You know, whether he's talking about Uar Bernard or Chris Cooper, but what most notably called Sean Mannion an evil genius. So I'm going to read the entire quote, BLG. He just knows ball. The guy knows ball. If I were to look at the three smartest people in the facility in one room, Sean would be there. And I think Sean would just be by himself. It would be Sean. He's a wizard. And, man, I'm super excited. There's your Sean Mannion from Jordan Mailata. Smartest guy in the building. Nobody else belongs in the room with Sean. I mean, can we temper the expectations a little bit? Now we have an evil genius.
Kind of calling everyone else dumb too, right?
I know.
Or at least not.
What do you think Howie and Jeffrey are? Can we get in the room? Can we get in that room?
I think that's funny. I mean, I think it's on brand, for Jordan. I think it's good to have like at least. I think it's bad if kind of everyone is the hype man, but you probably need to have at least one hype man.
Yeah.
And if Jordan's going to be, which he has ascended to, this kind of captaincy, team leader status, I think it is good to have someone who kind of looks at things on the bright side and wants to kind of gas people up and get the fans excited and everything. I think that's someone having that role, I think, is acceptable. Again, maybe you don't want the whole team built out of that, but I think he fills that role nicely.
How did it look yesterday, BLG, or I guess the 2 OTAs you've been to? You were down there up close and personal with it. What'd you see? Anything look good to you? Anything look not so good to you? What'd you see down there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a lighter practice in terms of, and certainly not as informative as it was last week when we got to see the depth chart basically for the first time and everything. Still, John mentioned, you look at Reek in there. That was one of the big takeaways. One of the unexpected takeaways, I would say, of the spring is the quarterback situation, the backup quarterback situation.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, I'm glad I hadn't gotten to that.
Because it's weird. No one, even the Eagles themselves, by the way, mind you, when the Andy Dalton trade was made, were saying, hey, this has nothing to do with Tanner McKee. Like, they were putting that out there.
Yeah.
And
I'm not buying it, BLG, anymore. I'm not buying. I'm flying. I asked, too.
Yeah.
Because I did the math, and we were told last week, well, we're just rotating from day to day. Well, then it would have been Tanner. They had 3 last week. It would have been Tanner, Andy, Tanner.
Yeah.
And then it would have been Andy. And yesterday should have been Tanner's day. It was not. So I asked, and I was told, yeah, well, because I said, well, did you just reboot? I said a different week, and Tanner's getting more. And they said, well, we're rotating. There's no real, we haven't made a decision. There's no locked in number, which is fine this time of year, but much different than what was sold to us when they made the trade for Andy Dalton. And oh, by the way, Andy Dalton looked pretty good yesterday and looked way better. Now he's playing with second team guys versus third team guys, but he just processes quick. He looks like a guy who's played a lot of football, which he has. And if I were a betting man on June 3rd, wherever we are, I would say Andy Dalton's going to be the backup quarterback.
It's certainly looking that way, which is, again, very weird relative to how we were all looking at this. I mean, we were talking about, and still remains out there, at least prior to this, maybe Tanner McKee potentially getting traded, and getting something back in return for him.
Well, I think that's the goal, yeah. But even if they can't get something,
sure,
I think, and they're both here, I think Andy's going to be the backup.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I agree. Which I think is like, I don't like that from a standpoint of, I think Tanner McKee can play. I think to make a judgment on him, which I don't know if the Eagles are doing, but I certainly saw, I feel like the main reaction to that week 18 game last year was, oh, Tanner McKee can't play because he was playing with a bunch of backups going against another team's starters. Like, that's a hard thing to do in the NFL.
Yeah.
You can play a bad team with your starters and still not beat that bad team. Like, that was a tall task. And I always point out, by the way, he looked really good early in that game when he had DeVonta Smith to throw to. You take DeVonta out, all of a sudden he didn't look so great. So, you put Tanner McKee in a situation, with tools, and I feel like he's going to be a lot better than what he looked like in that week 18 game for most of the game, certainly after DeVonta left. So I think if they're making a judgment on him based on that, and obviously, they have more data than just that. They're looking at practices and stuff too, more than we can see. Even so, I think it's way too premature to just write him off and be like, well, he's a lost cause. Now Andy Dalton is our best option.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. Speaking of quarterback, BLG, Jalen Hurts, it's a big year for him, obviously. How much does the loss of AJ affect Jalen Hurts, do you think?
I mean, Jalen's had a lot of success with AJ. And I think for as much as maybe, it hasn't clicked, it did in a lot of ways. And that was one of the main guys Jalen trusted throwing to. And that's such a big factor, I think, with any quarterback, certainly, trust. But I think especially with Jalen, and you just look at the target distribution, we'll see moving forward. Does that change? Does Jalen spread the ball around more? How much of that was their offensive vision in and just the kind of the roles that Nick Sirianni talks about each player is going to have on the team heading into the season versus, how much of that is, well, I'm Jalen. I really only trust these certain guys to throw to. And AJ was one of those guys, and now you don't have him. Maybe, he develops some connections. I mean, he has to really with these new guys he has here. I know he trusts throwing to DeVonta Smith. We all know that. Beyond that, I don't know who he trusts throwing to besides, Dallas Goedert as well.
Yeah.
But, beyond those two guys, I don't know. And maybe that, he finds that guy or guys, plural, but, I had to see it to believe it.
One of the guys I've been impressed with, and I think it should be noticed because mainly we're talking about the passing game now, because you're not going to learn much about the running game, but because I have never thought Saquon Barkley was a good receiving back. I think if you look at his history in New York, it was more perception than reality. And when he came here, I think it was borne out that way. And you've seen him. He makes some big plays occasionally in the passing game, but a lot of bobbles, a lot of non-clean catches that limit the ability to get yards after catch. I think he's been great this spring. We're only out there for 2 practices. He's catching the ball cleanly. He got the big wheel route for a touchdown. He just looked like Vaughn and Trotter in the dust. I think this has got to be a Saquon Barkley season if the Eagles offense is successful. And I think it's off to a very good start.
So he has that touchdown last year against the Broncos, right? I think that put them up 17-0 in that game, and then they blow the lead. Did we ever see Saquon targeted like that again the whole season?
Yeah.
Maybe, but not off the top of my head. And why not? Like that needs to be more part of the offense. Not saying you can do it, all the time, but like they have to find a way to get that more involved in the offense. Saquon as a vertical threat, I think, especially because I think that's going to be another area when you're going to be missing AJ, and you're going to try to figure out how to manufacture these explosive plays. I think getting Saquon involved as a pass catcher, again, specifically down the field, it feels like it has to happen more.
Any concern for you with DeVonta Smith stepping up to be the wide receiver one? Probably more double teams, different type of player than AJ Brown. What's your thought process on that, BLG?
None at all. I mean, I just think like we've seen it, not to the extent of, a course of an entire season, but I think the sample sizes we've seen don't make me think, oh, like that's a small sample size, we shouldn't read into this. They make me think like, oh yeah, like he's a really awesome player. And I think that will translate as he gets more volume. It doesn't matter to me how defenses are playing him, how he's being covered. Like I think he's going to get his, both in terms of how good he is and because he's going to be like the offense is going to run through him at the top ultimately. So like I don't think there are any questions there with DeVonta. I think he's an awesome player, and I think he's already shown he's capable of handling that role.
Yeah, I agree. That's one player I don't have any questions. I've said that pretty consistently. I think DeVonta Smith is a really good player. So I'm very concerned with the group behind him. But yeah. I don't think DeVonta is going to be an issue whatsoever. I do want to go back to Miles per second. Myles Garrett going to the LA Rams, not optimal for the Eagles. Obviously, same conference, could be a big hurdle in the playoffs. I don't know about you, BLG, but I always felt if he was going to get traded, it would be to the Eagles because they love the player.
Mm-hmm.
They can't speak highly enough of him. Every time this comes up, and it seems like it comes up every year, they want to get involved. They're trying, and all of a sudden he goes, and it happens so quickly. Mary Kay Cabot, who does a tremendous job covering the Browns, had brought it up, and it was the Rams and the Eagles and the Cowboys. And 15 minutes later, he's with the Rams. Are you surprised he's gone and it wasn't to the Eagles at all? Because I'm surprised.
I mean, we've heard so much about it over the years and that is the kind of player that Howie Roseman tries to chase if he becomes available. AJ Brown was also that kind of player, back when they got him kind of out of nowhere too at the time in 2022. But I would say, Myles Garrett, even more impressive from the standpoint. He's the reigning defensive player of the year. And regardless of any accomplishment, or just broke the sack record, by the way, just physical profile, just like looking at that man, like it's insane. So yeah, I am surprised. I guess they didn't make a stronger effort, because that's a kind of one of one. You move heaven and earth to get that kind of player, total game changer. Obviously, I think they have enough at edge rusher to be good. I don't think it's like they needed Myles Garrett, but when it comes to the equation of getting a player like that, it's not about need. It's just like you have an opportunity to get a total needle mover. You do what you can to go get that player.
I mean, we'll probably find out later. They were certainly involved. I mean, Howie's not going to make a call. We all know that. We'll probably get to know later if it was serious or how serious. But to your point, it's like the idea of one of how was talking about parallel paths after he traded AJ, and we got a little bit of time with him, and I thought that was interesting from a GM's perspective, because everybody's caught up in the moment, which is understandable, but you have to think about the future as well. And even the Rams, I was talking to Zander, people say, well, the Rams are all in. They also took Ty Simpson 13th overall, who's not going to freaking play for maybe 3 years. So you have to do both things. And do you think the acquisition of Grenard, which I think was phenomenal, do you think it ended right there? Yeah, because it's like it's almost bad luck. Like at the time, Myles probably not available, but can you afford to wait? Is it just an example of circumstance that they weren't able to get involved?
This is an area where I'm gonna be willing to give Howie Roseman the benefit of the doubt, just because I think he showed time and time again that he has a pulse on things happening around the league. And the grace I would give him is the sense that like he had a good idea, and obviously the timing might suggest otherwise in terms of the order of operations here. But my guess would be he doesn't make, if he felt really good about they could get Myles Garrett, then maybe they don't make the Grenard trade. And you're saying, okay, you have to wait at that point and you don't know, maybe. But I think that I think that if he felt like they had a better shot at Myles Garrett, then yeah, maybe they don't make that move, or maybe he was okay with doing both. But I don't think what I don't think is what happened is like it became a new idea recently that they could get him, and they kind of got outbid, and they were like, oh man, I can't believe we missed out because we already had Myles Garrett. I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't either. BLG, what do you think of the Super Bowl window? Still open to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically as long as they have Howie, I think, and Jeffrey Lurie running the team. There might be like some lean years in there, and maybe this is a bit of a gap year for them. But in the bigger picture,
do you think it is? I guess that would be the better question.
Okay,
is this a lean year? Is this a gap year?
I think yes, relative to other years. Like I still think you have a chance. I mean, they're what, like fifth, or I don't know, I forget what they are in Super Bowl odds.
Yeah, they're like fifth or sixth in odds. I saw. Yep.
They're up there. Yeah, they have a chance. Like you get in the tournament, as they say.
Yeah, I think the defense, man. Hey, you're in it because of the defense. You're going to be in games.
Yes. They have a chance. I wouldn't say they're the favorite. There's a difference. That doesn't mean everything, but it means something. The betting odds are, they're there for a reason. They're not just totally wrong. So I think this year, there's some questions when it comes to the offense. I don't know how to project that and say I'm very confident and they're the favorite. The defense, I think, like you're saying here, like that gives them a chance. And if the offense does hit on the promise and the potential of what they think it can be and what it might be able to be, then yeah, that raises their ceiling. But I feel good about the floor, less so about the ceiling.
All right, at Brandon Gouton, make sure you follow him on the X platform, bleedinggreennation.com. Check out his thoughts from Eagles OTA yesterday. He'll be down there next week for mandatory mini camp. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week. Hopefully, if you can stop by. I did, I forgot to ask guys. So I'm going to ask you on air. Did you see Drew Kendall yesterday?
I did not see him in team drills. I heard Bo Wolf mention that he was not participating in those, but he I guess he was doing some maybe individual work.
All right, there we go. Because I thought that I was reading my notes after, and like I'm doing, the offensive line depth chart, and I'm like, where
Same.
the hell was Drew Kendall?
They were light on the offensive line as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. Fred wasn't there.
No Fred.
Lane obviously. So,
Yep.
all right. So I solved the Drew Kendall issue because I saw him as well, and I'm like, and then I stopped paying attention when the third team came in, and I'm like, he couldn't be on third team. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for clearing that up for me. Bleeding Green Nation. .com does a tremendous job. Plenty of AJ coverage, and plenty of Andy Dalton. Potentially the Eagles QB2. Check it out over at Bleeding Green Nation.
BLG, good stuff. Thank you, man.
See you guys.
Thanks, bud.
All right, there is BLG joining us right here on Birds 365. Good show there. Good, two good guest interviews today. Johnny Mac, a lot happening in Eagle Land at this time of the year, obviously, and not normally, but there is this summer as we've waited for the first week of June, and it's come, and it's lived up to the hype. John, AJ got traded. How about him? Knowing I know this isn't heaven.
Yeah,
it's close to it. I'm like, all right, AJ, come on, man.
Well, I think it was funny. Mike Vrabel talked yesterday as well, and he drafted AJ Brown. Well, the Titans drafted him, and he mentioned that when they drafted AJ told him he was hoping the Patriots would draft him. So he is a long-time Patriots fan, which I don't like. As a youth, like, who cares? He's from Mississippi. They don't have a team. It's like I don't care. I never get into that. Like, I think fans get way too caught up on but when somebody's paying you $1 million, and it's weird that he's kept such an allegiance. Generally when you're in it and you grow up and you're an adult, you don't have that allegiance to your favorite team. But he has always been a Patriots fan. So from his perspective, maybe it is heaven on earth, but I think there was a little tweaking there as well.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of tweaking. All right, we got some super chats we got to get to today. John, before we go to those to close out the show, anything else we missed on yesterday's update? You were down there, obviously, so I want to make sure we hit on that.
We got one of them, Drew Kendall. Yeah, they were. Lane hasn't been there. Jalen Carter wasn't there again. Again, these are voluntary, so nobody's holding out or anything of that nature. But I'm glad BLG brought up Andy Dalton, because I should have brought that up earlier. He was taking the second team reps, and he looked good. He looked like you would imagine guys played a lot of football would look. Very quick processing, balls coming out on time. And I thought he did a pretty good job. Cole Payton was, I think, he's fourth string at this point, but the reps that he did get, as you would expect from a rookie encounter, and I think it really stood out how quick Dalton was processing to everybody, all the quarterbacks, but especially Cole Payton was holding on to the ball quite a bit. Markel Bell getting more right team tackle, first team reps, which I think are a good thing. Miles Hinton getting a lot of left guard reps on the second team, which has been pretty consistent. So he might be in the road to earning a spot as a backup on this team unless they bring in a veteran. And a couple roster moves, signed a couple players. Elijah Mitchell, who was here in training camp, and Samori Toure had his first practice. Not sure how to pronounce that last name, Toure, if it's but he was an ex-Packers receiver. Crossed over a little bit with Sean Mannion, but that was overblown. He was a draft pick in 2022, so he was there for 2 years with the Packers, and then was cut in Mannion's first year as an offensive assistant. So he's very low level offensive assistant, and he was only with Samori Toure for basically the spring and summer, and then he was cut. So, because I think a lot of people made that out to be like a big thing because they had a connection. They didn't have much of a connection.
All right, fair enough. All right, we got some super chats. Good updates there, Johnny Mac. Thank you. Appreciate everybody being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button on the show today. Here's Prince, member for 21 months. Prince, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Xander, the Rams traded for Trent McDuffie. We have Q and Cooper. We were in the race with Myles Garrett as well. We also got Grenard and Tariq Woolen. Howie has been cooking. We have a good team. I agree. I mean, Prince, the only thing I would caution you on would be, John used to say something to me. He said, I know you think the players and the roster is this, but believe your eyes. They're not as good as maybe you think they are. And the Rams went further in the playoffs than we did last year. So are they the better team? I don't know. You tell me. But John, any response to that?
Well, I agree with the point that Howie's done a decent job in the offseason. I do think, people get caught up in the immediacy of and again, if you frame it how you want to frame it, like Les Snead, as I keep bringing up, got a lot of shit for being a Super Bowl contender, taking a guy who's not going to play at 13th overall. Then you go get Myles Garrett and everybody forgets about it. A lot of people thought Makai Lemon would be on the Rams because of that reason. They're a Super Bowl contender. They need a receiver, trying to get A.J. Brown, and they took Ty Simpson. Got a lot of shit for that. All good teams operate on that Howie parallel path theory. And in 2028, I think this trade is going to look a lot better for a couple reasons. One, you have the insurance, like they have that asset now. So let's pretend, and I said Howie's in the insurance business as well. Let's pretend Jalen Hurts has another bad season. You have to start looking, and next season is a great quarter. Well, you can use that future pick to move up in next year's draft. That's your asset now. So a bad season means maybe you're picking at 15. Plus, you have a future first to go up to maybe 10 and get one of the quarterbacks in the deepest quarterback draft in the history of the draft. I'm exaggerating because we'll see how that shakes out. Now, I think only one is a sure thing, and that's Dante Moore. But, if the Eagles like somebody, they have the ammunition potentially to go up and get them. And then if Jalen plays well and everything's great, you just extend him, and then you have an extra pick that is probably going to be better. Like if you got a first round pick this year, it's 31. By 2028, when AJ is past 30, maybe they're still a good team, but maybe it's 23. Maybe it's 24. Maybe they get really bad because somebody gets hurt and it ends up being 15. You're playing the lottery a little bit, and there's a chance they can win the Super Bowl. But what are the odds? Better than 31 or worse than 31?
Fair enough. Let's go to Sig Lord. Sig says, Brandon looks like Mario. Brandon be ground. I don't even know what that means. Is that like some sort of a Mario saying or some sort of a, what's that thing called? Mario? Super
I assume he means the video game. I don't know.
What's that thing called? The video game with Mario and Luigi in it. I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
Kimberly says, I know it's rumor, but explains why Reddick is gone.
Stop it.
She must have missed the first 5 minutes of the show.
Stop. It was well reported at the time. We got archives on this show. He was upset with his contract. He was traded to the Jets. In fact, Joe Douglas made a big mistake because he was so unhappy with his contract. The Jets traded for his contract, and he held out there. There is no explanation needed for Hassan Reddick being gone. They traded him because they didn't want to give him more money. And it was well reported at the time, not only on this show, but multiple outlets. Multiple.
Here's Brian Pumper telling me AJ requested trade when we were 4-0, and then the following week against the Broncos, he was the game-sealing pass breakup on the Hail Mary to Smitty. Laugh face. Is that true? I don't remember that.
No. I mean, at some point last season, I think it was well known that he wanted out. Well, I know it was well known. Again, request formal. I don't think there was anything formal. I don't think there was ever anything formal, to be honest. Just an understanding over multiple conversations that he'd prefer a fresh start. And they were, they were still playing very well when he went on. Was it Janky Rondo? Was that the Janky Rondo one?
Maybe it was. I don't know. That's the guy.
I forget. All the gossip people can chime in. I think, he went on some kind of Twitch stream and he called the offense a shit show and said something like, trade me in fantasy if you have me in fantasy. So, I mean, it was it was, he was frustrated. Certainly, he was frustrated the year prior. But he did go on that one Twitch thing and, called it a shit show.
All right, here we go. Here's Wild Bear. A couple more, and then you're out of here, John. Member for 16 months. Thank you, Wild Bear. Hey, I know this isn't related to the topic, but I was wondering if your dad considered his own baseball section on this channel. I like his YouTube shorts. Yeah, I got to tell him that. He does post up the shorts after each game, but maybe we do a little bit more baseball content, Wild Bear. Appreciate that super chat. Here's Prince. Yes, I agree. How far this team goes all depends on Jalen Hurts, to be honest. If the defense is what we think they are, the Eagles are still right there. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're, I think on paper, the Rams are better. But, I mean, you don't win on paper. Seattle's probably better. And in years past, you'd probably say the Eagles are, 1 or 2. So they have taken a little bit ahead on paper, but they still have a chance to. They're still a Super Bowl contender, I would say.
Prince, thanks for the super. I would agree with that there. Here's Pump. J-Mac, if the massage triangle is capped, why did Brandon Graham like to post about it?
Oh my God.
Already addressed this like 5 times.
Oh my God, dude. Come on, stop. You're going to live your life on Instagram. You don't even know if Brandon liked it. Again, I pointed out when he blocked everybody, he didn't even block her. He had somebody doing his social media. He doesn't even. But I mean, if you live your life by likes on Instagram, I don't know what to tell you. As opposed to the 13th source story by Jeremy Fowler and Tim McManus. I mean, you guys are nuts. Like, you don't believe that shit, but you believe some rando on fucking Twitter or wherever it was. Where was it? Reddit? Where?
I don't know where it was posted. X, I think. I think some dude made
talking about, we don't know why Hassan Reddick. That's where he starts. We don't know why Hassan Reddick was traded. Are you not paying attention at all? At all.
I'm not going to play detective. With all due respect, I really don't care all that much, honestly.
Yeah,
Go
Go watch Gossip Girl. It's a good show.
Yeah. John, do you have experience in
never
Gossip
seen
Girls?
it. Never
Sounds
seen
like you might know what you're talking about with Gossip.
No, I just know I know my wife used to watch it. I've never seen it.
There you go. All right, good stuff, John. Your final thoughts today on the Wednesday edition.
Yeah, I mean, post AJ era, we knew it was coming. Well, some of us knew it was coming. It's here. Time to turn the page. I think in time people will realize what he meant to the team, the organization, on the field. Shame it couldn't have lasted longer. Should have lasted longer. Would have been nice if people could get out of their feelings, but people are in their feelings. So, players are no different than they're human beings, and they get in their emotions at time as well. It's a shame because they had so much success together that it can't continue, but sometimes that stuff happens. Everybody's got a shelf life. Everybody is renting space in the NFL. Everybody. Their locker is going to somebody else at some point.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, good show, man. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, all right, brother?
All right, see y'all.
All right, thanks, J-Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody being. Give me 1 second here. I got to address one thing, and then I will get to you guys for some Zander time. I think I got all my super chats here. 1 sec. I'm getting a phone call. I got to take it, but I don't need to end. It should be a quick call. Just give me 1 second. All right, guys. All right, I'm back. I apologize, everybody. I had to take the quick phone call. All right, to get that done. I've been waiting on that phone call, so I had to knock it out. Appreciate everybody being here. AJ is gone. Prince, I like it. I kind of like what you're selling me on, Prince, but we still got to see this offense. All right. We still got to see this offense. All right. So a lot of things happening in Eagle Land. I will say this, John doesn't want to go down the Gossip Girl route. And I'm, by the way, I'm good with that. I don't need John to speculate on this crap. I mean, guys, I know you all think it's all good, but who cares? By the way, if the story is true, these are the moments that I love Jalen Hurts. Like, he's like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a therapist. I don't give a rat's ass about you sleeping with you and sleeping with here and doing this and doing this. I'm like, Jalen, I can relate to you, my man, on that. Like, dude, keep that bullshit away from me. I don't care. So if the story is true, which I'm more with John, I really don't. I'm not really buying it all that, but man, I got like that. This is where I love Jalen. It's just like he's like, all right, come on, man, with this crap. It's like, what do you really want Jalen to do? I mean, it's like so weird. AJ now expects Jalen to be the mediator for personal life problems. It's like, I don't know. Who knows if the story's even true? All right. Who knows if the story's even true? So it is what it is. But I just wanted to say that because, like, if it is true, it's like, all right, yeah, this is what I love about Hurts. It's what I've always loved about Hurts. Jalen, whether you like him or not, is a real dude. Fake people, not real people, will never understand or be able to have a conversation with real people. That's just how it is. Anybody who's a real guy knows it, or a real person knows that. And if you're a fakie, you probably don't know it, to be blunt. You probably don't know it. Real people converse with real people. You're honest, you're forthright, you say what you mean and you mean what you say. You don't take things overly personal, and you go on about your day. Jalen's a real dude. AJ, I don't know. I have no idea. Well, Prince, you know what it reminds you of? Prince, it reminds me of that line in The Godfather. I think it's The Godfather, right? That line is in. What's the line in The Godfather about, cheating? Isn't there a line in The Godfather, like an iconic? Let me look that up real quick, because Godfather line. Thought there was one in there. I thought there was a line in there about I know I got the family line. A man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. That's a good line. I thought there was a line about there. Some men never cheat. No, Rich, I'm on the move, man. I'm on the move. I got a new. No, I'm not on a trip. I'm on the move. I'm moving. I got my wedding in a couple of weeks here, and then I'm moving. I'm going to be in Italy for 2 weeks. I told you guys that. I'll be in Italy for 2 weeks. That's going to be badass. I'm excited as shit about Italy, dude. I got all the shit I need for it. Things paid up, cash money, cash on the barrelhead. Cost me quite a bit of cash, but worth it. And I'm pumped about that. So, and then me and my will-be wife, then we'll move in. We'll move in our new place. We'll be similar area, same spot, right outside of Philly. It'd be good, man. It'd be good. I'm excited. How can you get to Italy and not seen Gotti? I'll watch it. It's easy to root for Hurts when poor play is infringing the mind. I would agree. I would agree to that, Brandon. I think Jalen Hurts is a very likable athlete. I do. That's pretty funny. The sun will rise in the morning. Yes, it will, Keese. Keese, boy, you hit the nail on the head yesterday. Keese, picture this being a fire extinguisher. This was me yesterday with the fire extinguisher. That's hilarious. I'm jealous of that. That'll be dope. We're going to Rome, and then we're going to Amalfi Coast. I'm going to Amalfi Coast. Zander's Prince. I would put it at a very low probability that we don't have a baby on the way after that thing. Zay, in retrospect, the Eagles were right to not give Hassan a raise. Also, I agree, Curtis. That's what I mean. It's like John is right. There was a contract impasse. He had that huge sack your Eagles didn't want to pay, and then he got traded to the Jets. Remember, and he sat out with the Jets. Same contract impasse. So, yeah, I don't know. Think Jalen Hurts going to play like an MVP? He's going to have to, man. I'm hoping that he does. Here's Tyler. What's up, Tyler? My issue with Hurts is I do not see him as a hard. Oh, bullshit. For the first time since his rookie season, he appears to be putting in work. Oh, come on, dude. Dude, there's a lot of things you can say about Jalen Hurts. First off, Tyler, let me ask you a question. What the fuck do you know about Jalen Hurts and how hard he works or how he spends his free time? Tyler, you see him on a screen for 18 games a year, which is 4 hours of 18 days. There's 365 days in a year, Tyler. I think you can do the math. I mean, I don't have a problem if you're not a big fan of the style of play. But, dude, that's just a dumb comment. Like, what the fuck? You don't fucking know whether Jalen Hurts is a hard worker. He doesn't post anything? Really, Tyler? That's your barometer for if someone is a hard worker? I mean, come on, dude. Can we be real, people? I just said it. Can we be real? That's money. What up? Thank you for the super chat. I think people are just trying to say that Shady said it's over a woman. That's what started the feud with Jalen. Skip Bayless said it as well. I watched it with my own eyes, then translated it to the field. Well, look, maybe it's true. Again, I don't really see it like John from a sense of I have to say it's fake or real. I don't know. I don't know whether it's real. I'm not pretending to know whether it's real. I don't know. I don't care. I care about the Eagles on the field. If it did translate to the field, well, then that problem has been solved, and AJ's gone. AJ did look to me low effort last year, at the end of the year especially, and I can understand why that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So I don't know, Vass. I mean, you know. Big Mike. Yeah, Big Mike, I know. I don't want to be saying that. That dude lives and breathes football. If that story is true, that's all you need. I agree, Prince. I mean, come on. To quote his wide receiver one, where is any quarterbacks in Philly? That was in the offseason. Z, go to Orma, Roma, and Tonorello San Pietro. Those are the best rated restaurants in Rome. Thanks, Rich. Send me an email. Morty, I don't know what the heck that means. He doesn't post. I have no idea what that means. He doesn't post anything. I don't care what I don't. If Jalen Hurts never made another post again, what does that mean? Who cares? I would understand why. TK, what's up, TK? Just jumping in, going back to see the rest in a couple minutes. Any update for the home opener? Other than that, we know the game and everything. I don't believe there's an update. Depends what you're looking for. Some people want a hotel update. Some people just want to know the I don't know. Tell me what you need. I'll give you the update. Zander at JAKIB Sports, my email. Pretty simple email. Jalen, yeah, Steve, I respect that too. I respect that too. I prefer to mind my own business. I got hit with the email, man. Oh, Rich, you're like giving me like recommendations. Like, what are you, like my tour guide? All right, Rich. I mean, come on, dude. I'll be like waking up in Rome. I'll have like an email from Rich. Hey, Zander, this is your day today. If you go to this restaurant at this time, you can get this food and this meal and this drink. All right, Rich, what time am I allowed to wipe my ass? Oh, man. Italy and Greece. Italy, Prince, I'm not really a traveler. You know, I'm telling you right now. Prince, I actually hate it. You know, Prince, I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to come. I'm very excited to go. But, you know, Prince, in my mind, you know what I'm excited for? Truly. I'm excited for the day that I land back at Philadelphia International Airport. I get back to my humble abode, and I'm in the comfort of my home again. That's the most exciting day on the horizon for me. When everything is done, the whole party and the bullshit is behind us, the honeymoon, I don't got to worry about travel or Rich's restaurants or any of that. I'm back. I can get back in my flow. That's what I'm excited for. I'm really not a traveling guy, but I've always wanted to go to Italy. That's why we're doing Italy. I've always wanted to go. I am going to do the whole Vatican thing for sure. That's going to be dope. Curtis says, Zander, I didn't like hearing that Lemon looked nothing like Smitty. I know Smitty was a better rookie, but I was hoping Lemon looked polished. Yeah, that was John kind of said that in that way. He was like, yeah, it doesn't look like DeVonta. Once you start, I don't know, Prince. It's really not for me, dude. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll come home from Italy and I'll book another one. I do want to do the Dolomites. We're not doing the Dolomites in Italy. I do want to go back for that. I just feel like I would always want to go to Italy. You know? Italy's dope. Wow, that's sick. You got blessed by the Pope. That's what we were hoping to do for our marriage. You can, like, if the Pope is there, I wonder if the Pope's schedule has come out for that time. Because he has to be in the. That's sick, Philly Ty. That's exactly what I want to do. I think he might be in town. Oh, I'm going to that. Yeah, Malfi's going to be sick. We're going to two different spots, we're saying. And then we're doing like the day trip to Capri or whatever it's called. We're doing that. Yeah, it'll be pretty cool. No, it's not race. I got a thing booked. What are you talking about? Brandon, thank you, bro. Don't like John. John never does it again. You guys see, can I remind you all of something? You know, I see Prince, I saw you do this too. And Brandon, I saw you do it. When I'm on the show with McMullen, my job is to be the host. Just because I ask a question a certain way, it doesn't mean that's my whole belief system. It doesn't mean that's my entire thought process. It means I'm trying to get John to share his thought process and his belief about a certain thing, certain topic, certain player, certain event, certain drama. John's not gaslighting me on anything. John has his beliefs, and I like to open the show up so that he can share them. That's what the show is. That's what I want it to be. I don't need to insert my opinion on every single story every single time. My opinion's not that valuable. I don't really care. What do you guys? What does it matter? What my opinion is of Jalen, AJ, and Hassan's love triangle? I don't give a shit. I get it, Zander. J-Mac. Well, all reporters can be annoying. I for one think John's a great one. I like John. I can't lie, Z. AJ helped us a lot, but the man is damaged. Rich, insecure dude. Man is disloyal. Well, you're entitled to that belief. He's a good player. Underdog, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Curtis, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't know why, Keith, but sometimes you got to do it. It's what it is. Pope got to put Maya knows he's good for a couple funny comments a day. What are you saying, Mayan? What are you saying, bro? You guys are funny people. We got some funny people in here, you know? We got some funny people in here. I think I am going to the Coliseum, Rich. I think I am going to the Coliseum. I don't know. It was one of those things where, you know, Rich, I'm not sure if you're married or you got a woman in life, but every once in a while, no, not every once in a while, a lot. You know, your wife, in this case, my fiance, wants to do something, wants to do it a certain way. I say, honey, do what you got to do. Here's the card. Here's the card. You need that? I think you'll need this. Here's the card. Give her the Amex Platinum. Pick up that travel credit. All right? The Charles Schwab Amex Platinum card, baby. Toss that her way. Run it up, honey. Whatever you need. No price limit. Anything for you, my love. No price limit. And then you let the metal clink. You let the metal clink on the table. Where is this thing? You let the metal clink. Xander, you should create another chair. Maybe I'll put it on my ZK's garage show. No, maybe I will. I don't know. I bet you my girl would be great on camera. She gets a little shy, but once she gets used to it, I think she'll be good. Everyone's a little shy at first. Kimberly, that would be awesome if I could do that. Rodney, this is my whole thought process on this whole thing. Why Rodney says this? Why the F should a grown man fix another grown man's relationship problems? Rodney, for the life of me, I could never answer that question. I have no clue. You know, some people are just a little entitled in life, you know? Oh, Rich, I ordered my ring this week. It's fucking sick. I did not cheap out on a ring for me. Well, obviously my fiance's ring is beautiful, but I did not cheap out on a ring for myself. I'm gonna wear it for every day, forever. I got a dope ring. I'll show you it when it comes. It's not really a ring that I can explain, and I don't have a picture of it. I'll show you it when I'm wearing it. It's badass. It's yellow gold. I wasn't going silver or anything like that. Yellow gold thing is fire. And the price of gold right now is through the roof too. So it was a dagger to the wallet, but it is what it is. Yeah, Reyes, this is where I will easily agree with you. Jalen Hurts' job is not to play psychiatrist and matchmaker and da-da-da-da-da and all these different things. I was gonna, Curtis, and then I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I talked to my brother. My brother bought a kick-ass ring when he got married like 3 years ago. And he was like, nah, dude, get a good. He was like, go for it. I mean, I get it. It's not going to be for everybody, but, you know, I'm going to wear it every single day. I'm going to look at it. I've never worn a ring in my life. So I'm like, yeah, I want my ring to be, one, it's symbolic. You know, I want it to be symbolic of the union and things like that. Like Jalen Hurts said, it's a beautiful thing to step into covenant. Oh, underdog. All right. See, Ryan, I'm not the silicone guy. I'm not a silicone guy. Yeah, Prince does that too. Nice, Reyes. I have an Oura ring. I wear the Whoop. I got the Whoop band. I'm kind of done with it out, honestly. Like, all right. You know what I don't like about these things? It's like, hey, you didn't sleep good last night. Let me remind you 42 times about it that you didn't sleep good. It's like, all right, I know I didn't sleep good. I don't need to be reminded that I should have a shitty day today because I didn't sleep good. Sometimes I want to get and throw it into the wall. Holy shit. Ryan, fair enough. My brother, that's why I got a certain one though, so like I could lift in it and stuff. So I don't know. You tell me, Ryan. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to do. I don't really care what rings you guys wear. I really don't. I got asked the question and I answered it. Ryan, if you don't like it, go and sulk in your fucking lifted Jeep Wrangler, guy, or whatever the hell you got. I mean, come on. All right. Life after AJ has begun. We'll see what happens. Speaking of it, there's the receipt for the one ring. And there's the other one. The card the guy gave me. Nice, Michael. Brandon, what's up, man? Get Hassan's contract, but he gave up $5.5 million in fine. Yeah, I don't know what Hassan. I don't know the whole story with Hassan. You know, Philly will suck without AJ. I don't think so. Ryan, I think I remember you putting that in the chat before. That's why I said that. What, do you have the Wrangler? Or was I right? Just tell me if I was right, Ryan. Was I right or was I wrong? Was I right or was I wrong? Big Mike Z, when it comes to your wedding ring, the more you pay for it, the more you take care of it. Just like, well, I paid a pretty penny for it. I'm sure we all have different definitions of what a pretty penny is, but that was a pretty penny. I knew it, Ryan. Cha-ching. I ain't nobody important, but I know someone who works for the team. It's true. Who's tweaking over abroad. Well, then, these dudes got to grow up. If that's true. Tweaking over abroad is diabolical behavior. Morty says, I buried you with that thing on your wrist and I got lambasted. Now you're sick of it. Yeah, I am. I'm freaking tired of it, Morty. I'm tired of this thing. I think I got tan lines from this fucking thing. Stupid ass Whoop band. I don't know. I paid for the yearly subscription, so I think it re-ups in August. Maybe I'll go on and cancel it in August and you'll never see the thing again. I do love my watch. I wear my watch every day. It's my only watch, but I do love my watch. If I get real breaded up one day, I'll probably, collect some watches. Yeah, Prince, I did, bro. I got them cheese and crackers. They were pouring me up that Dom Perignon or whatever the damn champagne is. I'm like, please save the champagne. You know what? Anytime someone offers me champagne, anytime, you know what I sing? I sing the same line and I've sung it my whole life. You guys should know this line. You should know this line. Can anybody guess what line it's going to be? I would be curious to see if somebody could get it. Whenever somebody offers me champagne, I will give you a hint. I'm not drinking no damn champagne. I hate it. I freaking hate it. Anybody guess Prince? You might get it. Come on. I want to see if somebody can get it before I say it. Do you have milk? How about water? How about San Pellegrino? Come on, somebody get it. Let me cancel it for you. Cancel what? the Whoop? Whoop is cooked, Morty. I won't be rich. It's like $380 a year. I'm like, yeah, that's cut it out. Cut it out. I might be trading in my Corvette this week for another Corvette. I'm not going to a new car. I'm just getting a different Corvette. Mine hit out of warranty, and then I got a sick deal presented to me, and I got out of my car whole. I got such a kick-ass deal. I'm gonna get out of my Corvette. Basically cost me like $4,000 to own for the last year. That's it. I was like, what? So I took the deal, but we'll see if it comes together. It's not done yet. All right, my champagne line is this. Yes, Michael. I don't drink champagne. It makes my tummy hurt. Come on, man. Nobody got that. Come on. Prince, I can't believe you didn't get that. I don't drink champagne. It makes my tummy hurt. I love that line. I love cigars. Shine. I've always been a cigar guy. You guys know when I'm in my other studio, if you look closely on the back table behind me, there's a real fat humidor back there. It's a nice ass humidor. That was a gift to me from my brother, that humidor. A sick humidor. But I got all my favorite cigars. And whenever it gets somewhat nice out and I can post up outside in the garage and just smoke a cigar, I freaking love a cigar, man. I love a cigar. I love a cigar. I love that song. Keith, same. Lil Wayne was goated when I was growing up. I loved Lil Wayne. You know, one of my dad and I used to jam in the car. We would drive to hockey, and my hockey games, and one of our favorite pre-game songs was President Carter by Lil Wayne. Was President Carter. President Carter. President Carter. That's a great song. Lil Wayne has a ton of bangers. I always hear, okay. Yeah, no, I hate champagne. I really do. Bro, Rich, my dad used to jam to everything with me. We used to jam to everything. I mean, I don't. He doesn't get in his car now and jam to Lil Wayne, no. But when he was taking me to hockey, yeah, he loved President Carter. Zander needs a. I need to tinker. That's so true, Morty. That's so true. Sitting on the world, I got a life in my. Man. I'm gonna go jam some Lil Wayne after this, I think. Yeah, that's a nice humidor shot. Shine. If you're on there when I'm back in that studio, I'll show it off a little bit. That's a badass humidor, dude. And I got some badass cigars in there too. I had no clues, Aaron. My bad. Same here. Yeah, Prince. I love a cigar. Yeah, that was the other. We love that one too. Mrs. Officer, let them please come and get them cuffs off of you. That's funny. That's a classic song, Mrs. Officer. That's a good pull today. We're having a good Zander time if we're talking about Mrs. Officer. All right, Mrs. Officer. All right, I'm getting out of here. Let me get this. I got to get some of these segments up. All right. I'm excited to figure out this, this Corvette situation. If they can get me out of this Corvette into this new one, I'll be fire. We'll see if it comes together. You know? Oh, yeah, you think so, Agent? Is that how good I sounded? Just like Wayne? He's gonna be copyrighted, flagging the channel. That makes sense. Jerry, that makes a lot of sense. Well, you would have Jerry, were you there when I was giving you? See, I'm a musically eclectic. All right. I like a lot. I hate the new shit today. I don't even listen to music that comes out like in the last 5-10 years. It all sucks. But I loved early 2000s rap. Eminem was obviously legendary. Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, Biggie. And then I get into the classic rock genre. Classic rock's always been my favorite music. And then I can hit you with the, I guess that would be like 90s maybe. I don't know. What's like Linkin Park, Red Hot Chili Peppers, some of those. And then my soft side, if you go to like the Fray, you go to a couple Coldplay songs here and there. Not all of them, but a couple of them are fire. Yeah, today's music is not so good. You're right. I could probably up my Tupac knowledge. But, you know, Metallica's fire. Z listed the sound. Which one, Curtis? Which part? Classic rock, I loved. I loved classic rock. I went through a phase of like classic rock for a while. Whenever I get in the car and I put the windows on or I take the top off in the vet, I always feel classic rock is that's just the tunes. You know, when I was driving my Mustang, I love that. That's what really got me back into classic rock at the time. Celine Dion is classic. I love Celine Dion. Her voice is voice of an angel. Yes, Jerry, that's the perfect way to put it. Music touches my soul. Fleetwood Mac's all right, good. I like the Rumors, that album. I used to have Rumors on vinyl. I had Rumors on vinyl. I had a bunch of other ones. No, Big Mike, I'm not getting rid of the vet. No, but I will. I'm already in the market. I've been talking to a couple guys about a truck. I'm probably getting another Ram truck, honestly. So my brother's got the Ford, the F-150, and I was going to go back to Ford, but I don't love it. It just feels too chintzy to me, man. It just felt too chintzy to me, the Ford truck. So I was like kind of out on that. My pop had a GMC or GMC. He had a Denali. And this was supposed to be like this souped up, awesome truck. He hated it and I hated it. He sold the thing in 6 months. He hated it so much. And the only truck I really loved so far in my life was my Ram. I had a Laramie. Interior was money, fucking felt quality. The drive, it had that V8 Hemi in it, so it had a little kick to it. That's why I think I'm going to go back to the Ram route. I'm just going to go back to what I liked. I'm going to go back to what I liked. I know a lot of people are haters, but it is what it is. Jelly Roll is good, actually. What's that one song by Jelly Roll I really like? There's that one song by Jelly Roll I really like. Jelly Roll. What's that one? Son of a Sinner. That's a bang. I'm just a long-haired son of a sinner. That's a banger. That's a good one. I can't say I seek out Jelly Roll's music, but I do know that song. I like that song. TJ Watt talks. What do you mean, with the birds or no? I don't think with the birds. This is our longest Zander time in a while. No, I hate that song. That song is tragic. Mr. Brightside. You know what I think of when I hear that stupid song? You guys, when you were younger, did you ever go to a party or a bar or whatever, and there's always those obnoxious ladies that have to stand on the table and scream, "Oh, Mr. Brightside." I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Please get me out of this place. Please get me out of here. That's what that song reminds me of. Chris Stapleton's fire. He's great. Honestly, Jerry, I don't even think we picked it yet. But you know what I'm leaning toward? Yeah, I know DMX. DMX first album's fire. Yeah, dude, it's tragic. You know what I'm leaning toward on my wedding song? I don't know if you guys will know this song. I'm not doing one of those modern. Everybody does the modern country song. I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. We haven't picked though. Honestly, what are we, 17 days away? We haven't picked. But you know what I'm leaning toward? Jerry, I think you'll appreciate this. It's an Eric Clapton song. Anybody, that should give it away, I feel like. That should give it away. Eric Clapton, a great, truly great musician, artist, guitarist. James Taylor, that's solid. No, not Cocaine. That would be funny, but not Cocaine. That's a good song, though. Layla's a good song. He's got a lot of great songs, Eric Clapton. He's got a lot of great songs. Eric Clapton. I'm waiting to see if Jerry gets it or somebody gets it. Fun fact: DMX is that right? That's there you go. You got it. Curtis got it. Wonderful Tonight. I've loved that song since I was so young. I love that song. So my fiance is like, yeah, let's just do that. You love that song. So I don't know. What do you think, Curtis? You think that would be a good one, or should we go a different direction? Tears in Heaven's good, but that's a very sad song. Bryce, do you know what happened with Tears in Heaven? You know what that song means? That's a very sad song. That's a very sad song. That's a crazy story. It's a good song, though. Beautiful song. Beautiful song. Eric Clapton's got a lot of great songs. Yeah, Curtis, I was thinking it was pretty good, too, but we'll see. Yeah, Ray, it's really sad, isn't it, man? Eric Clapton's, I think it was his son or his daughter. I think they were 4 or 5 years old. Fell off his balcony. Man. Crazy, man. Crazy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Tears in Heaven is about. But yeah, his son, right, Reyes? That's what I thought it was. Yeah, really sad. Really sad. I know, Keith, it's a crazy story, dude, with Eric Clapton. But that's why obviously that song's not going to be it. But I think Wonderful Tonight will be good. Morty says Cocaine is a wedding song. Now, Wonderful Tonight's a classic. I say, my darling, you look wonderful tonight. It's a great song. I freaking love that song. All right, I'm out of here. Good conversations, everybody. If you got something to get done in your life today, go and get it done. Go and get it done. All right? I'll be getting shit done too. I love all you guys. I appreciate all you guys. All right? You guys are the very best. Who needs friends when you got JAKIB Nation? I don't. Love all you guys. Hit that like button. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.